Everyone always tells me that because I am actually more red heavy than I am blue heavy.
Right, yeah. It,
And a lot of that was actually caused by nationals.
okay.
Because I lost my first round of constructed against Breyer. I hit him for 12, scry 12, and
Jeez.
I put four blues on top, eight blues on bottom, and saw two blues off the top, preventing me from hitting him for lethal.
Yeah, I could see how that would make you want to change the deck
Um,
construction.
so we went into a higher red package. Because unlike most stats, we block out very well if we have to.
Honestly, weirdly it does because everything blocks for 3. And so you're just like,
Yep.
cool, triple block, I have one card in hand. Pitch, play an arsenal card, or just play out whatever you have. If it's like a zap, for example, in the arsenal, you can sit it there, things like that.
That's that's actually a brand new card to my list. I actually hate Zap with a passion.
Dude, I did too until I put your list together, and then I was just kind of messing around with it, and I was like, Zap actually makes some sense if you block out and have Zap in Arsenal or Zap in hand. Then you can just jam it
There's
down.
there's actually three reasons for it now. It's the block out strategy against Starvo when I have to. Just a free zap as a free zap.
Yeah.
It's always good. Wildfire, as many zeros as
Yep.
possible off the top,
Thousand
and
percent.
the defense reaction in sideboard.
Yep. Sigil of
The
Parapets, man.
zero cell.
Yeah. I totally agree. I was thinking about that while you were talking on your Card Guys interview, and I was like, you know what? He's exactly right. It's great for Sigil of Parapets. You want to do that? I think that
Everyone
looks
keeps
good.
asking me why I take Chain Lightning out of the deck.
Dude, I took it out too. It's
It's
so
such a
hard to
hard card to
use.
play around.
God, it's so hard to use, man. I feel like
Like,
just to get use cases out of it, you have to like jump through 2 hoops more than any other card in the deck.
yep,
And
and
it
it's
pitches
awful.
if it pitched blue, then I'd be more inclined because it's a blue pitch block 3, and then maybe you get the effect off of it once in a while, like play it out there
Yeah, I
and then
think
chain something together. But honestly, it's not
at,
even that good.
at blue pitch, I definitely take it over Scalding Rain.
Totally,
Because I
totally.
also just hate Scalding Rain as a card.
I like the red's not bad if you're trying to go like wide, I guess. But I feel like there's just better cards now.
There is I don't like wizard cards that have no hit effects.
Right.
Because when I'm playing a card and it just says blanket deal you damage, you can just choose to ignore it. Especially early in the game, because you're just at a higher life total.
Yep, that's a very
Like
good
you're not
point.
incentivized to block blue. You're not incentivized to block four, deal nothing on turn one because you're like, okay, okay.
The counter argument to that though is if they say okay to this innocuous 4 attack, then they are 4 life down. And yes, you haven't taken a card out of their hand, but maybe over the course of like 2 of those turns, they are equal life or less life, and now you have some advantage to push tempo. But I kind of agree with you. I would argue
So,
that like just running reverberate and saying, okay, if this hits, I get to do stuff from hand. Are you threatened by that? Then they have to make a real decision.
so I prefer all the others because they're easier to take tempo with. Because if I come in with four on your 3 AB, you lose a card that probably lost you four damage, saves me four life, and I still hit you, so I get to do my next thing.
Mm.
So like in the AB matchups, I try to take two cards from hand and then pass to them. I dealt you three damage for the turn. I took two cards from you, and now you're too scared to play out an attack.
Yep, I can see that because then you just come in with them
Because wildfire exists now.
with
Your
with
starting
less
life total is lethal range.
with less blues. Do you feel as comfortable playing off the top?
I play heavily off my top.
Do you really?
I did. I try to see six cards a turn.
Wow, that is so interesting. With this amount of reds, I think you wouldn't play that much off the top because you just have like more red, like quad red hands, you know?
So I have what 29 blues and 32 reds.
I think I counted it. It was like 30 and 26. Let
I
me
can just check on my
3,
Fab DVD. It
6,
just tells
yeah,
me.
9, 12, 15, 30 reds and 24 blues.
Okay, I'm adding in my sideboards cards
Okay, yeah,
like a
yeah,
dummy.
if yeah, you're right then. 32 reds because of the enchanting melodies, and yeah, if you jam those 2 sideboards, you only do 2 sigil of parapets, right?
Yes.
So then 29 blues.
Yeah. But so for main board, it's 24 and 30.
Yeah, 24
Um,
and 30.
which means my average hand should be red, red, yellow, blue.
Correct.
So that is a blue to look at the top, a yellow to play it, and a red to play out the other card from my hand. And
Okay,
that's at a minimum.
I can see that
Um,
argument.
and if I and if I get two blues, I can look at two from the top. It all just depends on how the hand looks, though.
Sure.
Because we're trying to aggressively filter to the cards that win us the matchup.
Exactly, and that's a big deal. I think that's the reason. And we should be recording this right now. I don't know what we're doing because this is fantastic conversation. That's the reason why I like the inclusion of yellow Aether Spindle though, because it's another way for you to filter to the combo
That's what
win. Right?
replaced. That's what replaced Chain Lightning.
I think
That
that's a
was the
super
replacement
solid
for it.
call. I saw that in there and I was like, God, why didn't I think of that? That is so perfect.
That's also why I run the blue one. It feels really awkward, but on a turn one, on their turn one, it's not as bad.
What, just pitch and play it out
Seeing blue Aether Spindle on
off the
their
top?
turn just
Yeah,
doesn't feel awful. Like it's obviously not the best thing I could hit. I could have hit a red one, but
I can see that.
it's not the worst hit I could have. It feels much better than a blue Voltic Bolt off the top. Because people ask me why I don't run that all the time.
I honestly, I've kind of strayed away from Voltic Bolt overall because it's like really expensive off the top and it doesn't do
And
anything
they,
except
yeah, and
damage.
they just ignore it.
Yeah,
They're
I
like,
mean,
okay, it's
it's
fine.
good
I'm
to
not dead.
yeah, it's good to push damage, but outside of that, like the goal, I guess, to get your opponent at a lower life is I don't know, maybe it's like to the side of actually like getting to the win necessarily,
Yeah.
you know.
Because Voltic Bolt deals more damage than like we'll go with red Voltic Bolt versus blue Spindle. Voltic Bolt does more damage, but Spindle potentially sees me more damage.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a good way to
And
put it.
that's what I value is the potential of it.
That's a good way to put it. Well, cool. Let's do this. I'll do like an intro and I'll kick it over to you and then maybe we can talk a little bit about like how long you've been playing Kano because I've heard that you've been playing Kano for like a couple of minutes maybe, like 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Just
that's
kidding.
all.
And
I just
then we'll
started playing Saturday, by the way.
yesterday was the day. You just did it, yeah. That would be hilarious actually. That would be so funny. And then we'll talk, I guess, I have it broken down here by color because that was the thing that I found most intriguing. And I think some people are going to find that intriguing as well. And so we can talk about like all the reds if you want to, and then kind of cover, and we'll just blast through these cards. I may even just pick up the stack and rifle through it as we go. Oh, I guess we should start with the equipment, of course, because the equipment is almost all, like it's literally all set.
All five.
Yeah.
They don't change.
No, and it opens up so much room for other activities. And then after we talk about
does.
main board and like total game plan for this Kano version that you've built, then we can jump into the sideboard and talk a little bit about that.
All right.
I think people will like it.
I hope so. I hope more people
Sound
play
good.
it. We need more representation.
Dude, I 1000% agree. Holy crap. I agree so much. I love Kano, and it's, like we said, it's a brainy deck, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be played by more people. And there's people that
Yeah.
can understand it that are just choosing to play something different, and that's okay too if they want to. But maybe just give it a try. That's all I'm saying, man.
I think a big turnoff is when I first started playing the game, or when I first started playing Constructed. I was asking around to a bunch of people, watching streamers, and everyone pretty much just said Kano isn't playable
Dude,
in
yes.
Constructed. And with the general, what's considered good populace stating that, the average person isn't going to look further than that. They're like, all right, it's bad.
Yep.
Move on to what's next. And that just isn't particularly true. Like, I got 53rd at Nationals without Wildfire, with Kano.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
definitely
it's always
agree with
been
you.
playable.
It's going to be interesting to see how this meta unfolds. I'll put it that way because I do think like it's fundamentally Kano's a little bit weird right now because I feel like certain matchups do feel very painfully unwinnable. And we can talk about that as well.
I don't actually feel any matchup is unwinnable currently.
Oh,
I've
really?
beaten every matchup in the meta.
I like the sound of that. See that you got to bring that fire, man. Come on, let's do this thing.
I've also lost to almost. Okay, I've lost the two matchups that I hate the most are Bravo and Prism, or Starvo and Prism, not Bravo himself.
I can't stand Starvo. Or sorry, I can't stand Prism. That matchup just gives me headaches.
It's much more winnable now. I've beaten it several times now.
I was playing, so I'll put it this way: I was playing a different list completely, a list I put together that ran a lot more. Well, let's see. I had the yellow snapbacks. I had a couple of more go wide reds kind of thing, like just lower to the ground, less expensive, and it felt really good overall. I should have gone 2-1 that night, but I totally goofed because I'm a dumb. But at the end, I was playing against Prism, and I was like, I don't know what in the world I'm doing against Prism. This is what I get. I need to practice against Prism.
I
You need to
actually had a
teach me.
list very similar to that. I had yellow reverberates, yellow snapbats, yellow aether
Mm,
flares. I had two yellow stirs in the list. It was just as wide as I could play it.
yeah.
Um, to race everything. The problem I hit with that list was if I ever sat down in front of AB4,
Oh yeah,
it
it
was
kills
an
you, right?
almost guarantee loss,
Yeah.
and that
Yep.
felt awful.
It just kills you. That's kind of how I felt like the Prism matchup was. But then I just didn't. At the time when I was playing the matchup, I was like, cool, he's going to go like Herald, make a thing, attack me for one every turn. Do I ever win that race? I
Yes,
don't know.
you do now.
I
Previously,
guess
no, you didn't.
I guess I have to play better from the top. I think that's my problem because in that moment I was like, I feel like I have to guarantee some damage or get really lucky and just hit Aether Wildfire like high roll off the top.
That's actually how I beat one of my friends who he plays me every week on Prism versus Kano, so he knows how to play against me.
Yeah.
And I got him the Pro Quest yesterday, um, because I baited him into the mistake of playing Phantasmaclasm.
Ooh.
If I'm not in lethal range, that card's amazing for me because Phantasmaclasm draws you a card if you do not have a hand.
Yeah. That's true.
So
I
I
guess that's a
pitched
good
out
point.
my hand, banished some Kano cards, activated a weapon, and then drew a blue off the top to play the Fort Lightning that was banished for lethal.
Holy crap, man! That's a cool play.
It was He wasn't happy. I
That's a
hit
cool
what was
play.
it? I hit Tome into Aether Wildfire into Zap into Fort Lightning with a Blazing Aether and Arsenal and boots up, and he drew me the blue I needed to play all of it.
That's disgusting. That is
He found it
disgusting.
disgusting.
Yeah. That's disgustingly good for you, though. There you
It
go.
was. It felt really good.
All right, I'm going to hit us with an intro and we're going to talk and just hang out and talk about Kano. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. What's up again, everybody? We are going to do something very fun today. Today, we're not just by myself. It's not just me in my room. Well, it is me in my room, but I'm joined by a very special guest and the deck that he played to multiple top 8 finishes, and that's Justin Graham. Justin, how are you doing?
Great. How are you tonight?
Dude, I'm good. I'm so pumped to talk. We were already, like, literally, I think it's been 20 minutes that we've been talking about Kano already, and I should have just hit record early. I don't know what we were doing, man. I should have just, like, pressed the button because it's already been absolutely scintillating conversation. If you don't know, Kano's this guy. I should make it more focused, shouldn't I? Let's make it more focused so people can see who Kano really is. Kano is a fantastic hero. He's a wizard, and he has this amazing ability that allows you to look at the top card of your deck, banish it if it's a non-attack action card, and then play it as though it were an instant, which is just kind of fantastic, isn't it, Justin?
It really is.
And in doing so, it allows you to play very tricky things. It allows you to push a lot of damage and basically just light your opponent on a fire in a beautiful way. And you, sir, just did like what, 2 pro quests this weekend and
I
top
did.
eighted?
I got top four in the first one and top eight in the second.
That's awesome, dude. Okay, so this is the list that you gave me that you've been running, and I wanted to kind of dive into it and break it down. And for anybody that's new to Kano, we'll talk about some what these cards do and like what the overall game plan is for the deck, all of that sort of thing. And then maybe we'll dive into more specific things like matchups and sideboarding and things like that. But first, we should talk about the equipment because the equipment's probably the easiest part, right? It's very simple. You want to walk us through each piece of equipment as we go, and I'll just be like your Vanna White. I'll just show off what you talk about.
All right, that's not a problem. So Arcanite Skullcap is played as my only headpiece for the sole reason that it says I start the game at 33 health
Yeah,
instead
man,
of 30.
that's a solid way to start the game.
I've actually been Findal's has bothered me for a long time, because most of my games don't last long enough for me to get a trigger off of it. So for a long time, it's been a very expensive piece of iron rot.
That's interesting.
But it's better than Iron Rat because on the occasion, it does give me a free resource,
That's
and I
true.
have nothing better to run.
You know, I will say this: it's crazy that you say that games for you are lasting less than the 3 turns that it takes to tick up the tunic to 3. But thanks to a couple of new cards like Aether Wildfire, it makes a ton of sense that you can just get there in time, which is kind of funny overall.
Metacarpus nodes is played for uh, technical. I guess it would technically only be one reason because we don't have any other gloves that we would play. But if we did, the reasons for it are the AB1 is
Hmm.
good in the mirror match, and it's a playable card against any Rune Blade.
Yep.
And the extra pump for the full turn, as opposed to just one card when needed, is really good.
Yeah, this is a fantastic ability, especially if you can lay into it multiple times on the same turn. It's super fantastic. Plus, you just throw it down on forked, right? I mean, it's perfect on forked lightning. And then
And this
finally,
is the most important card in the deck. I could cut any other card, including the new Wildfires, Blazing, anything before I cut this card. It is how I win most games
yep.
because the ability to go, I drew a bad hand for Kano uses, but I drew lethal if I could play this one card from hand,
Hmm.
is how most games end.
Yep, and so being able to destroy this at instant speed on your opponent's turn and then play something from hand at instant speed allows you to just kind of open up your hand to crazy kind of combos. And so if you're new to Kano, this is, I can't say it enough, this is a must. I know that's kind of weird to say because, like, it's a legendary equipment, but if you want to play Kano at kind of like a high level, this card is super necessary. So I get that that's a little bit scary, but dude, if you pick this up, and just jam some games of Kano, you'll see what I mean, and you're gonna enjoy yourself a ton because it's really fun to storm Striders for lethal, and you'll do it a lot with the deck. Am I right?
It really is. It also has Arcane Barrier 2 on it,
It does,
which in
yes.
most matchups isn't relevant, but in the mirror it is,
Mm-hmm.
and against Briar in specific,
Yep.
it's relevant because Rosetta Thorn exists.
Yeah, Rosetta Thorn exists, so any Rune Blade, which is now all running Rosetta Thorn, pushes 2 and 2. And I've found that this deck surprisingly just blocks really well, especially Arcane, because you have Arcane Barrier 1, Arcane Barrier 2, and if you're really low, which is oftentimes the case, you could even do Arcane Barrier 3 if you wanted it,
From the
which
start
is
of the turn.
yeah, right, which is kind of funny. So before we talk about the deck overall, I want to get your overall like experience on Kano. So Justin, you started playing Kano like last weekend, right?
Yeah, sure. No, it was actually the first deck I started with in Flesh and Blood. I started right after Crucible dropped. I started quick enough into the first Crucible drop that I was able to get the TCG player bundle or the Channel Fireball bundle, whichever one it was.
Oh,
I think
nice.
it was Channel Fireball. That was actually my first buy-in into the game.
That's awesome.
Um, and I've been on Kano from the start. I asked my friend because I came from Magic. I said, "What's the closest to Storm that we have in this game?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Here's Kano." And I said, "Okay, let's figure it out."
Dude, and figure it out you have because you're just like cruising to top eights, man. That's pretty sick. Being able to pick up these consistent. You said when you played at nationals, what position did you end?
I got 53rd.
Dude, on Kano before Aether Wildfire, super
Yeah,
solid,
I
man.
I also only ran one Blazing Aether in that list because I personally did not like the card until Aether Wildfire was printed.
Yeah, I can understand that it's one of those weird case scenarios, and we'll talk about it when we get there, where it's like sometimes it just literally sits there and does nothing. So at least it blocks 3. I mean, that's not
It
bad.
does block 3. It's a wizard card. That's
So with building Everfest Kano and going into the meta, what led you to, I guess, the overarching game plan that you have here? Like, what is that game plan, and how do you view Kano into, I guess, specific matchups, or just overall into the meta game, playing it in, and like, what's your goal here?
okay. So there's two specific game plans in the deck, and it depends on if I'm in a aggro matchup or what I think may end up being a control matchup, which is anyone with AB 3 or higher.
Okay.
The aggro matchup is play aggressively from hand and the top of the deck, filtering as much as the deck as possible. Because we'll probably get outvalued on damage most turns by one or two. But when we have the wildfire turn itself or the blazing aether turn itself,
Mm-hmm.
we outvalue them by like 15 plus,
Yeah,
and
those
we win
cards are
that
good.
race.
Those cards are really good.
The AB plan is a little different. As opposed to outvaluing them, we're trying to hit them for maybe 3 a turn, but all of our cards we play have to be hit effect that they
Okay.
care about. Because we're trying to strip 2 cards from hand. Because if we deal them 3, and they have 2 cards in hand on their turn, they look at their hand, they go, dang, if I play anything, I might die.
Yeah.
And you're fine with that. You'll win
So
eventually.
that's true, right? If you're picking away at them. So you're talking aggro matchups. That's like your Katsus. Like, describe me a couple of aggro matchup heroes that you
Uh,
might see.
if the card has the word Roomblade in it, it's an aggro matchup.
Truth. Oh my God, so true.
And they're all super good in my opinion. A super good matchup for you, in my opinion.
Would you say every
Bolton,
aggro matchup is good for you?
yes. Every
Okay.
aggro matchup always feels in my favor by at least like 65%.
Oh wow.
Bolton is my favorite matchup. A lot of the list, it feels completely unwinnable for them.
Hmm.
And then I consider there are some control Katsus, but I haven't seen one in a long time.
Yeah. It's
We
kind of going
consider
away.
Katsu aggro. We consider a third of the Prisms aggro,
Yeah, that's the
which
sticking
is
point
the
matchup for me, in my opinion, is the Prism matchup, and I bet you it's a lot
aggro
of people
Prism.
sticking.
Aggro Prism is not. It is in our favor because Wildfire was printed, but it's only in our favor if you see the Wildfire.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you don't see the Wildfire, it's no longer in your favor.
Okay, and so
Um,
those are like aggro matchups. And so if someone here is watching this video and they go, wow, that's a lot of the meta that I see currently, then picking this up might be to their favor. And then on the other end of things, we have like more controlling matchups that run a lot of Arcane Barrier. I'm thinking things like Guardian, right?
yeah, every Guardian I auto assume is a control matchup unless I know the Guardian player specifically and I know they're not on control.
Would you consider
Um,
Starvo the AB side of things?
yes.
Okay.
I have seen lists of Starvo that's running 1. I've also seen lists that ran 5 or
Right.
4 in Crown of Seeds.
Yeah, Crown of
Um,
Seeds is one of those crazy cards that can act as a pseudo Arcane Barrier each turn.
I think Crown of Seeds is awful against us. I think it, because if you use it on my turn, Wildfire is the most important card in the deck, and you use your one of your AB on my turn that you can't use on your turn anymore,
I guess that's a good point, yeah.
and that's the only time Wildfire is relevant is on your turn.
Okay. So overall game plan for aggro is to just race it down and then to play a more of a measured approach that tries to strip cards from hand with on-hit effects if it's a control matchup, yeah?
Yeah. And with the control matchup, if you can sneak in energy pots onto the build,
Yes.
you're pretty happy. I ended a Prism control matchup with 4 AB. I went into their turn with a card in arsenal, 4 cards in hand, and 7 resources on field. Had
Good
all 3
God.
pots and a tunic. And he
My
just
God.
looked terrified.
That's crazy, man.
Understandably, he had 2 cards in hand. I had at least 7 resources plus 5 cards. Like,
Dude, that's crazy. That's a way to do it, man. That's a way to end a matchup right there. Okay, so with this build, the one thing I want to talk about before we go like just into these reds, overall distribution, and this is something we talked about before I started recording. So shame on me, but you have a ton of reds in comparison to blues, in my opinion. I wasn't ready for that, and this is your main board, right?
yes, that is my main board. And that doesn't change against most decks.
Okay, so talk to me about why you're going more reds than blues, because I will say I've noticed more traditionally that you end up with at least equal or more blues than you do with reds.
So we play more reds for. We'll start with the aggro side of the matchup. We need the damage spells. There's nothing that feels worse than going into one of us is dying on their turn, and I draw my hand of blues, and then I hit blues off the top.
Yeah,
There's also the fact that unlike most stats, almost all of our reds, almost all of our cards block for 2, which means that in the control matchup where I'm having to play late game, if I am forced to block, I can block with reds, save
yeah.
the blues, and remember it's the reds back in later.
Yeah, they almost all block for 3. I mean, the only cards that
Yeah.
don't block for 3 here are like Stirs.
Any
That,
phone
yeah,
and stirs.
yeah, the 3 Toma Fiendals, and then of course your energy pots don't block, but everything else blocks for 3. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, which is crazy. And that's something like underratedly good about Kano is that he can just throw anything on the board and just block out or block like triple block. As long as it's not like weirdly dominated, he can just deal with it, right?
Yeah. And we
Which is
actually
pretty
have
cool.
cards via sideboard for those cards specifically.
Yes, we do. Okay, so let's break into these reds. Starting, of course, with Aether Wildfire. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to dig in like this. This is what I'm going to do. And we can just rifle through from the back to the front. So this card is pretty good, yeah. I've heard Aether Wildfire is like not bad.
It's okay. It's definitely not the best card, but it's okay.
If you don't know, it straight up just deals 4 damage. So there you go. I mean, you're happy with just dealing 4 damage. But I guess if it's your opponent's turn, it stacks onto everything. So that's fair. it's
There's actually a big thing on that won me a matchup. I had a Kano mirror on Saturday at the Pro Quest.
yeah,
Wildfire says an action card, not
right.
action card you control.
That's right. Yep.
So I played lethal at him, and he responded with a wildfire, and I just took it.
Yep.
And then when he tried to go for a Kano after, we responded and killed him with his wildfire buff.
Yeah, because it does buff. Like if your opponent plays Wildfire, it does buff yours as well. But then again, if you play Wildfire and they have like I don't know
I sided
arcane
out in the
damage,
matchup.
yeah, if they have arcane
And
damage at all, you're just like, uh oh.
I pulled it out. That is a card. That is the only card that comes out in the wizard matchup.
I could see
I
that.
take wildfire out. I'm not dying to it. A big thing that I also figured out on mistake was Sting of Sorceries is an action. If you go for a
Ooh,
wildfire turn and you see a Sting of Sorceries, you better kill them,
yeah. Otherwise, you
or they're
probably
going to kill
die.
you.
Yeah. So Aether Wildfire, an easy 3 of one of the best like enablers for crazy combos and just win conditions, I would say in the deck. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
is. It is the enabler. It's what we dig for.
Yeah. Let's go back to front. So Forked Lightning. If you don't know Forked Lightning, if you're new to Wizard, Forked Lightning is kind of one of those weird cards that costs 3, and it says deal 2 arcane damage, and then it says deal 2 arcane damage. This is one source, like the card here is one source, and these numbers will stack based on you using different effects to buff arcane, yeah?
Yeah. It has been a staple in the deck since it was printed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was the card we used to search for before they printed Wildfire
Yep,
because it was the card that we could make the highest amount of damage.
that's right. And it's still good, even with Wildfire. I mean, it's really hard to
It
put,
got better
like,
with Wildfire.
yeah, if you can put Wildfire alongside Forked Lightning, then it's like game winning. Even just like we didn't talk about Crucible of Aetherweave, which is the weapon, but just running out Crucible of Aetherweave into Forked Lightning is still some value, which is fantastic because if you apply a +1 buff to this card, it's going to apply to each of those numbers. So this is another one of those giant explosion-y cards that we have in the deck. And you were talking about Blazing Aether.
Yeah. So before this set, I did not like Blazing Aether as a card because on the off chance you ran into AB4, you almost got no use out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a red block 3, which just felt bad.
Yeah, I
It
could
was in
see
the
that.
deck previously because the line of play was lesson into lesson into lesson into Blazing Aether
Yeah,
if you ran into no AB decks. But now the printing of Wildfire alone made me value the card much higher because on a Wildfire turn, the card's just good.
it is. Yeah.
It buffs across the board, and then it gets everything, and then it gets the original Wildfire buff as well.
Yep.
All at the low cost of a
Of
Kano activation,
0.
most
Yeah,
likely.
you just off the top of the deck. Now, I should ask this before we keep going. When you're playing Blazing Aether and really all these combo turns, are you pitch stacking and like lining things up, like early game pitching to the bottom of your deck and then looking? Or are you, I guess, are you opting? Like, how are you
When
lining
you're
those
opting,
combos up?
for aggro matchups, pitch stack doesn't typically work
Right,
because you don't make it back to the bottom.
right, exactly.
Like
And that's,
I can't pitch stack against Chain because he's gonna be on Soul Sackle 7, and I'm gonna
yep,
die before I can get to it.
yep,
That's why we try to go through 5 to 6 cards a turn so that we can see our scry effects, so that we can see our wildfires or our sonic booms or our blazing aethers.
totally. And so allowing yourself to line up like a Forked Lightning or an Aether Wildfire alongside of your Blazing Aether, you do that through the means of opting, which, by the way, leads us to this wonderful card that you actually run in red, yellow, and blue. And I had never seen the yellow put into a deck, and I don't know why I didn't think to do it myself. But you want to talk through us on this Aether Spindle card?
Yes, so this is actually a key card in every matchup, be it control or aggro. Because in aggro, it's a blue pitch that hits for 5, and then looks at the top 5, which means I can get a Kano activation, play the top, arsenal a card, and still have my set 4.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I was forced to block, it means I can set my top 4 and set my Kano activation.
Yep.
And in the control matchups, it gets over AB3.
It's so good. It's so good. Just like the straight up the even the yellow. When I was messing around with this deck after you sent it to me, I was like, even the yellow feels like it has value because if they're not gonna stop me from opting, then I'm just getting free looks into what I'm digging for. And if they do stop me, then I'm not taking a bunch of damage on their turn, right?
Yeah, and especially, and we actually prefer aggro decks to run AB1 or AB2. Especially like Riot, for example, runs 30 to 40 plus reds. So if they pitch 2/4 tats in red to block 2 damage, they prevented 2, but they gave up 8. And I'll
Yeah.
take that trade every day, all day.
I would say this is one of the best cards in the deck personally, just because it
It
allows
is
you to dig, man.
one of the best. It's probably the best non-majestic, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great argument. Now, talk to me about Zap, because we were talking about this before. You said you didn't actually run Zaps, or do you not like run 3 red Zaps? I can't remember what you said.
I didn't run Zaps at all. I actually hate Zap with a passion. And it irks me that I have to play it now, but I have to play it now. I actually got in some playtesting with another player at a ProQuest last weekend after the rounds, and he was on Starvo, and it let me know that I have to have Zaps for 3 reasons. The first reason being if I have to block out, if they come in with a 11 attack and I need to not take 11, I can block with 3 cards, play that for free on my turn, or I can block with 4 cards from hand and play that from Arsenal with no issues. The next instance is Wildfire. There are times, since I am a red heavy deck, that I don't have as many blues as I would like. So using a blue to play a card from the top is really good for me.
Yeah.
And the last reason is one of the sideboard cards, which I'll mention that once we get to the sideboard cards.
Sure. Yeah, Sigil of Parapets is the one you're talking about. Is really good with this card, right?
It is.
Okay. These ones are also fantastic. We can just run these down like this. Red Reverberate opens up cards from your hand to be played if it hits.
It enables the wide turns that you're always looking for.
Yeah, and it's
also,
super cheap.
It is cheap. It's also helped me enable Wildfire turns when you draw it and you hit that off the top instead.
Oh, like you draw, like you pitch Reverberate and you have Aether Wildfire in hand?
No. If you draw Wildfire and you look at the top and you see Reverberate,
gotcha.
You lose out on a little bit of you lose out on a little bit of damage because you're playing the Reverberate first.
Yes.
But you still get the Wildfire from hand without using your boots, which you want to save for when you're killing them.
Yeah, you end up playing Reverberate off the top of the deck, and then you are opened up from like a Wildfire in hand or from Arsenal because. Or can it be from Arsenal, actually? That's a good question.
It cannot be from Arsenal.
It can only be from hand. Yeah.
So it is really good with Gaze, though. Gaze the Aegis.
Yeah.
And when you draw taunts. So there's a lot of cards that you don't want to see in your hand that Reverberate helps. You still get damage in while getting rid of those cards.
Sure. And then Stir the Aether Wind's a fantastic card overall because it, again, all of these cards, or at least these few that we're talking about right now, open up your hand and allow you to play things without breaking boots. Plus, this gives a huge buff.
It does give you buff. It's the only card I would contend with against Aether Spindle as the best non-majestic in the deck. Because a buff 3 plus instant speed means that you can, if you hit it from the top, you can play 2 actions on your turn in essence.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you're
play
KOing on your turn.
You play it instant, then you play action.
Yep.
And just a plus 3 buff is ridiculous, especially if you Fort Lightning with that and 2 blues is 12 damage.
Indeed. Oftentimes you find like this is one of the linchpin cards for winning the game. Like in the end of the game, you just win the game if you have a Stir, you know?
It is a card that we arsenal a lot. Because we don't want to keep it in hand because it is one of the few block 2s.
It is, yeah. It's one of those sad moments where you have to block 2 with a Stir. You never like it, right?
Yeah, never.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. I was running two tomes, and you have three here, and I want to know your feelings on tome.
I love Tome with a passion. It enables the widest turns possible when you set the deck properly,
Yeah.
or if you're just lucky, because that's a thing that happens.
If you just hit it, man.
That happened with me last night where I blotted Zaxby's. He artivored. It was going to kill me, and I had nothing to do. So I was like, well, look. Hit Tome, drew two, hit Tome, drew two, hit Blazing Aether, Aether Flare, snap back for lethal off the
Yep.
top. And I was like, well, I guess if you just draw the tomes, you draw the tomes. It happens.
See, that's the thing for
Um,
me. I'm really good at drawing this card, and when you draw it, you just feel
yeah, okay.
bad, man.
I meant to say when you hit the tomes off the top, it feels good.
Yes,
When
yes.
you draw it, it feels awful.
Oh, it feels so bad. That's why I went to two,
I
because I was like, no, I'm not gonna draw
I
this card.
aggressively pitch that card if it's in
Yes,
my hand.
most definitely.
The good thing with it is reverberates are fine,
That's right. Yeah,
and on the rarest of occasion, I've used that first ability to kill someone.
yeah.
It does. The card doesn't actually just say draw two on it. I know it confused me the first time too. It
You
has other
can
words.
buff. I will say it is a lot harder to use the buff part of it, and the draw two is so alluring. But it is important to not forget that you can just straight up buff some
Draw two.
attacks, which is pretty fun.
Yeah,
Snapback. Do we even need to talk about this card? It's super good.
not really. It's just good.
It's super good.
It triggers all of your good cards. And it lets you play more than one action a turn.
Yeah. Being
Um,
able to just flash down this card after like really anything like Aether Flare is
yeah.
fantastic, or just even an Aether Spindle if you can play this
It was
down after
actually
Aether
one of the
Spindle.
only cards that made Chain Lightning mildly playable.
Oh my god, so true. We both talked about this all. I should have recorded this part because we
But
both
we can talk
feel
about when we
like
get to the yellows
yeah,
because that
that's
card's so
true.
bad.
Chain Lightning, man, I'm not a fan. Okay, Aether Flare's the last red that you have. What do you got on Aether Flare?
It's the best. It's the best and worst common in the deck. Um,
That's an interesting
it's the
take.
it's the best because it's a really good card when you have the cards to go with it. Like an
Yeah.
opening hand, like if you have three blues and an Aether Flare, and then a red sitting on top, you're really happy.
Yep.
Um, but when you were stuck with a two card hand, when you had to block with two cards to live, and Aether Flare is your last card, it's a blanket damage card. Or when you
Yep.
just have multiple reds in hand, like when you see Reverberate that and two blues, you're like, man, I want to play Reverberate first so I can play Aether Flare.
Yeah, and then
But
Aether
playing
Flare doesn't do anything.
yeah, but playing Aether Flare second defeats the purpose of playing Reverberate.
Yeah. I totally agree. This is exactly why I felt
Um,
kind of mixed on this card
it
myself.
was it was very similar to me in the sense of Chain Lightning, where it can be a really good card, but it's hard to make it work the way you want to. I think it's a bait card for new Kano players
I think it's
because
one
you
of
get
those
that
that you still play though, and you
you
obviously have
always
it here in
play
a
it
triplicate.
because you can just do good with it, but
Yeah,
you can't get greedy with it.
that's true. That is a good way to put it. This is not a greed card, everyone. It's not a greed card. It's
It's
just
not.
value.
If you just play it out for four, you just played it out for four. Don't hold it. Don't save it. Go in for the damage.
That
We're
is
an aggro
exactly
deck.
right. That is exactly right. And I think I've fallen trapped to that myself. Okay,
I know I
yellows.
have.
Dude, me too, man. Yellows. Okay, so I want to start with this one. Yellow. I know this is not the most powerful yellow we're talking about, but Aether Spindle yellow again.
Pretty close.
I was floored, man. I didn't realize how like comfortable it feels to just hit the opt until I really started playing a ton of Aether Spindles. It feels fantastic.
It does. So I actually only play it in the aggro matchups. I don't play it in what I assume to be a control matchup
So you side
because
this out.
I side this out.
Okay.
Um, no, against sorry, because I do count Prism as a control matchup until I see what they flip. I
Yeah.
leave it in against Prism. In any Guardian matchup, it comes out because I have to assume that they're on AB3 with Crown of Seeds at a
Sure.
minimum, and it will never touch them.
Yeah, it never does
I mean,
anything
while
because
that
it's
feels good, taking out two cards or taking out a card plus Crown of Seeds trigger, my sideboard cards are more useful.
yeah. And right now you have, I should have said this at the beginning, I apologize, a 66 card core. Like you're playing 66
Yeah.
cards into your deck just straight up. So when you're siding something in or out, or I guess I should say when you're siding something in for a matchup, are you looking to side cards out?
Uh, in the Guardian matchups, yes, I side in six and I take out five.
Oh, okay.
And in doing so, I up my blue count.
Sure.
And in
We'll talk about that, I
the
guess, when we get to the
yeah,
sideboard. You can tell me specifically which cards you take out. But these Aether Spindles in the aggro matchup feel fantastic. They really
they're
do.
amazing.
They're super good cards. Lesson in Lava is actually one of my favorite cards in Kano. I don't know if that's like underrated, looked down upon, but I love what you said earlier is one of my favorite lines of going
It
Lesson in Lava, Lesson in Lava, Lesson in Lava, Blazing Aether. It's just so funny to me.
that and Arsenal with a full blue stack is what is it?
Yeah,
20 damage turn over no AB, and that uses nothing. You didn't
yeah.
use your boots, you didn't waste your gloves, you didn't need your tunic mana. It's just I know you were above me, but give me half your life total.
It's so fun. This is a card that I really enjoy, and I don't think I would ever play less than two of these. I think I'm always
I'll never
playing
play
like,
less than three unless
oh,
I'm in Blitz, and then I'm only allowed to play
yeah,
two.
that's a good point. This card's really
Um,
good. Any
I will
card that
point out
allows this
something.
ability, though.
I will point out something that the judge didn't realize, and he was a Kano player at my Saturday event. Lesson in Lava says Wizard card, not Wizard action.
Yeah.
So you can get the Wizard D reacts with it.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
You're so
Huh.
at Vegas before the new set, I used this card to get Aetherize a lot because I was
Oh,
playing it
because
for
it's an
the Art of
instant.
War, but it's still a
Ooh.
Wizard card.
Yeah.
This card says Wizard card, not Wizard action card, like every other Wizard card in the game.
Wow, that's fascinating, man. I didn't realize that either, but it makes total sense. It's super intuitive. But I guess it's just one of those things that you're so used to just pulling actions with it that you
Yep.
don't consider the possibilities if you don't really stop to think about it. I want to talk to you about this because I actually had a conversation recently, or I was part of a conversation where someone mentioned that they didn't run a ton of Toma Fiendals in Kano, and I do actually run Toma Fiendals in Kano. What's your take on Toma Fiendal? Because you do have three in the deck.
Card for the simple fact that if it's seen off the top, it nets you two resources. It costs you two cards to play it from the top, but you gain two resources overall. Or it let you filter bad hand.
Yep.
So if you pitch blue, pitch red, you didn't gain anything, but you got rid of a red you didn't want.
Sure.
I think
That's a
that's
good
fine.
point. Hmm.
And from Arsenal, I only ever play this card from Arsenal if I have Tunic mana up, unless I'm at no other end. Because
Hmm.
gain 6 life in a deck where we started a 10 life deficit is really good. Because we
That's the
can,
reason
unlike
I
every
played
other
it.
deck,
Yeah.
we don't need setup to be able to play this and keep going. We don't need Mage Master Boots. We don't have to break anything. We can remove Tunic, play it, gain 6, and then Kano you off the top anyway.
Yeah. That's
We
a good
don't
point.
realistically lose anything from it.
That's the way I always played Toma Fiendal is you just literally gain the health back and then Kano a bunch. But I didn't think about the idea of just literally using it as a hand filter and a way to dig essentially.
Yep. The only problem I have with Toma Fendal is it's not hittable off of a Sonic Boom.
Which we'll talk about here in a second, actually, because Sonic Boom I
Yep.
think is the next card. Yeah. So if it's not hittable off a Sonic Boom because this looks for a wizard non-attack action card so that you can banish it, whereas Toma Fiendal, of course, is generic.
Yep. So that's why I've had people ask me about the new potions or some of the new talismans and
Mm-hmm.
why I'm not running them. Um, I don't like having more than 6 non-hits in the deck.
Yeah, I noticed you don't have Eye of
And
Ophidia as well, and I was like, ooh, interesting.
I have disliked that card since I played it like the fourth time in Blitz.
Yeah, you hit it off the top and you feel really bad, right?
Yeah, you KO it into it, and you're like, well, my turn's over. You
Yep.
Sonic Boom into it. You're like, well, that was a bad Sonic Boom.
Yep.
Um, it doesn't trigger any of your wizard cards that say, hey, if you've done a wizard thing, keep
It's true.
going.
It's true. It just
Um,
opts for you, which is good, but technically you're
it
playing
is
other
good,
forms of opt, right?
but I have enough other forms of op that I
Yeah.
don't feel the need of adding a whiff into my deck that can cost me a game.
That is a very, very valid point. The final yellow
And
you have here is Sonic Boom. Oh, did you want to say something else
yeah,
about I?
yeah. The difference between I and Epot to me, while I does describe me to, if I have a hand of Epot and 3 cards or I and 3 cards, I can triple block with one hand and just play out an energy pot. The
Super
other one
true.
I can triple block and I can scry 2 and use Kano's ability and hope I see a 0 in the top 2, which before recently I only ran Tomes as zeros.
Yeah. That's a very valid point. I think I hadn't considered it that way because I was actually always running the eye. One, because it's really pretty and it's one of my favorite cards to look
Really
at.
pretty. I'll give
Yeah,
you that.
it is so pretty. It's so nice, but it does suck when you hit it off the top. And honestly, when you don't have that many whiffs in the deck, and then that's the one whiff, you feel even worse about it, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, why did I even include this? Because it's gonna make me miss, and that's a very valid point. All right, Sonic Boom. This is a fun card, dealing 3 arcane damage, and you can buff this, of course, with the Crucible of Aetherweave. But then just being able to go wide with a card like this is helpful.
Yes, this is actually this is one of our new lines of play for OTK turns. It's actually how I beat a Starvo player that I'd never beaten before. He'd never lost to me while I was playing Kano while he was playing a Guardian.
Mm.
Until last yesterday actually. Um, where I called him on a triple red hand and I hit Aether Wildfire into Sonic Boom into Blazing Aether.
Oh, that's gross, man.
No, it wasn't. It felt good. Leave me alone.
What's that damage? How much damage is that?
So I had 4 blues. So Aether
Uh,
Wildfire came in for 6. He blocked
okay,
3 of it, so he took 3. And then it's Sonic Boom for 6, which is
6
9, and then 6,
for
which is
6.
15, and then Blazing Aether comes in for 15 plus 3 is 18, so
Yeah,
33 total.
I love it.
He
Oh
was
my
not at
god.
33. He didn't actually need the Blazing Aether to kill him.
Oh my god, I
It
love
was
that
just
so
there.
much. That's hilarious. So that takes us through the yellows, and that leads us to the blues. And a lot of these cards are literally just like blue.
Same
It's
thing.
blue because I pitch it, right? So, like for example,
Yeah.
blue reverberate is super solid because it blocks 3, it pitches blue, and you could also play it, right?
I have played it on rare instances of where I have Tome in hand, and I
Yeah,
just want to get a little bit of value while playing out of Tome.
sure. Gaze is actually really good, though. We should probably talk a little bit about Gaze because this is one of those cards that like fantastic in multiple different ways, right?
Gaze is really good. It's also awkward when it's the first card you see on a Kano turn,
Mm.
especially if it's their turn, because it now means you have to go a card extra
Yeah, it
to
makes you
get full
commit,
value.
right? Otherwise, you're not
Yeah.
getting it to return to your hand.
That's why snapbats are really good in the deck because you can play Gaze, hold priority, play snapback. Snapback sees that you've played another card.
Yeah.
Once snapback resolve, resolves and then sees that you've played another card.
You know, it's actually
Um,
interesting. We could take a moment at some point, maybe down the line, and maybe even another video with the updates that they've done to their comprehensive rules. I feel like there's some weird things that have been changed, and I wonder if that interaction still works. But it makes sense, right? Intuitively.
done it this weekend,
Say that again.
and the judges allowed it. I did it this weekend, and the judges
Oh,
allowed
gotcha.
it. And also, there's actually a line I meant to mention with Stir that I would like to go back to at some point,
Sure.
um, because
We
of the
can.
wording on Stir.
Yeah, well, let's do it right now. I'll just jump in, man. Where's Stir?
Um,
Stir is an interesting one because there's like
it
weird
is.
stuff that you can do just fundamentally.
So if you play Stir and then play Stir, your next card still only gets +3.
Yes, that is true.
Um, the difference here arises when you play Stir, hold priority, play a second Stir as an instant.
That's correct.
Neither Stir sees them as the next card played because neither one was resolved when the first one played.
That is
So the card
correct.
you play after that gets
Gets
+6
+6.
instead of
Yes, it
+3.
does. Yeah, it is.
Um,
I actually did a short on that exact combo, lining up like what resources you'd need to go stir and then stir in response to stir and then forked lightning for 1 billion. It's
yep.
kind of a funny thing.
That's the it's Stir, gloves and weapon means Fort Lightning comes in for 20,
Yeah,
which is good, but in Blitz it's really good because it's lethal over your arcane barrier at
yeah.
starting life total.
Indeed, it is, and that's the one. I feel like they may have changed the comprehensive rules. May have changed how that actually views it. Well, I'll have to go in and maybe ask some people if that still functions because they did rule that you can no longer flick flack and then respond with flick flack and then have the next thing get plus like the double buff. So I wonder if Stir
Did
still
they?
does that. Yeah, that's
But
part of the new rules.
I find that weird because right now, if you with Runeblade, right now, if you play a go again attack and then you play Revel, hold priority, activate creepers, play Revel, you get both triggers on Revel and you get 8 rune chance. Because
Hmm.
when they resolve, they both see the other one as played. And that should be very similar to the flick flat, just like the stir thing.
Yeah, so I think that may be an interesting point of contention going forward. Nevertheless,
That's
Gaze
very
the Age is
strange.
yeah, Gaze the Age is pretty solid. Aether Flare, it's a blue that pitches,
Yeah.
and maybe you use it, right?
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of blues to choose from that have things. We don't want any blue that's not a wizard card because we don't want to start adding whiffs into the deck.
Sure,
So we try to play as many blues with hit effects as possible.
sure. Blue Aether Spindle, same exact thing. It's a blue with a hit effect. This one's actually fantastic, honestly.
It's better than most of our blues.
Yeah.
It's better than almost all of our blues,
And
actually.
if I wanted to play any of these blues, it'd probably be this one first, and then maybe Gaze second. I don't know.
Yeah,
Snapback seems good.
yeah. It's probably better than Gaze, just in the sense that it does what Gaze does, but you
Yep.
deal damage.
Yep. Truth.
Um,
Speaking of snapback,
Snapback. Snapback almost got added in as yellow because of Aether Wildfire.
yes,
Because you
yeah,
don't
I
mind
did.
playing blue Snapback whenever you have it getting +6 on the stack.
Yep.
Still a 1 for 7 at instant speed at that point.
Yeah, and the yellow may just be a consideration for future
It,
editions because it just seems really good if you can line it up alongside of a wildfire, right?
yep.
Three,
Epot is
three epots, right?
yes, it's a hit and a miss with me. It's a love hate relationship because it blocks for 0.
Yes,
So there are turns where you're just sad, and it also doesn't hit off of a sonic boom.
yes,
Um, but in games where like when you draw a triple blue hand or a 4 blue hand and you play off the top, you can still just action point play out an epot.
mm-hmm.
And that all like you got to do something valid and set up a even more valid turn later.
Totally. And I do think it is solid. The description you put earlier, epot in a hand versus Eye of Ophidia in a hand, is a fantastic reason why epot is just super solid. Plus, you can stack up resources for late game, right?
This is actually probably my least favorite card in the deck, and I'm almost required to play it now because of Wildfire and Sigil on the sideboard.
Yep.
Because there's more zeros that actually do something, even if it's just one crappy point of arcane damage, is better than seeing a 2 cost that I can't play
That is true.
because of lack of resources.
A zero off the top with a wildfire is far
Yeah.
better than just about anything you can see, right?
Yeah, because then it comes in. Yeah, because 0 for 5 is really good. Strangely enough,
You're
who would
not
have thought?
wrong. Who would have
Zero for
thunk?
five that's almost unblockable.
This
It's
is
really
my
good.
least favorite card. I am not a fan of
That's
Blue
actually
Scalding
yeah.
Ray.
Sorry, I was wrong. Zap is not my least favorite card. Scalding Rain is.
And I do
We
play
have
this as
nothing
well.
better.
Yeah, exactly.
We ran out of cards. I've had a lot of people talk about the new set with like Emery Scalding or some of the other random cards.
Hmm.
I already have more 2 costs than I want in the deck as it is.
Yeah.
So a 2 cost that's 4 sometimes isn't good enough in my opinion to play over a 1 cost that's just always 2.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I actually swapped this out. I don't play the Scalding Rains now that we have Scour. I play Blue Scours in main board over this. It's just
My
seems
only contention with it is if I see this off the top on a wide turn, a wildfire turn, this still deals damage.
it's true.
Um,
Yeah.
Scour targeting 0. The last judge ruling I got was it doesn't get a buff from
Yep.
wildfire.
Not anymore. Yeah, they ruled that in the comprehensive rules. This one that came out over the weekend.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's one of the things
Good to know.
you can't buff a 0 with wildfire on Scour if it has no target. You also can't do it for I think you can't
Blazing
do it for
either.
blazing, right? You can't do it for blazing either.
I don't. It might be in the comp rules notes. I know previously we could do it with blazing.
Yeah, and I think they've updated it so you can't go
Oh God,
blazing. Yeah,
that's
blazing
awful.
for 0 up with wildfire, which I guess technically would never be a thing, right? Because blazing's always going to take whatever damage you
Yeah,
dealt, and
I guess the
wildfire would
realistic one
buff.
for blazing would be stir into blazing with the new ruling. If
Yeah,
it's the same, probably deals 0 damage.
yeah, yeah. But for me, I think I don't know, like Scour for example, just felt better. But you do run it because it's blue and it blocks 3, right?
Yeah, it's a blue block 3 that has a number on it greater than 0.
There you go. That's the way to break it down. So that's our main board, 66 cards. And quickly, let's go through the sideboard because you have some of the most interesting sideboard cards I have ever seen. Like, for example,
Oh,
a card I loved in OTK Viscerai, Enchanting Melody.
So it is a Guardian only card. No matter what Guardian I sit down in front of, if I see the word Guardian on it, that comes in
I could see it.
every game.
It's
Because
fantastic because that block, right? It just sits
yeah,
out there.
at worst it's a block four when I'm trying to value a hand. At
Hmm.
best, you're stopping a dominate attack that you couldn't that you couldn't previously.
Yeah. And because you're almost always guaranteed to play a non-attack, you can just float this forever. It feels almost like an E-pot in that way.
Yep. It also has go again, so it doesn't just take up your turn.
That's true.
And you can play it off the top, which I have done.
Ooh, that's a good point too. I hadn't thought about that. You
That was actually
can.
how I won a lot of Guardian matchups before Everfest. Was they come in with a Crippling Crush dominated? I had a enchanting set off the top with a spindle, and then
Hmm.
flashed it in, block with hand, block with that, and live.
So this is a card and you have exactly two copies of this. So you side this in for Guardian matchups. What do you take out for Guardian matchups in place of this?
So actually, I side in six. I take out five.
Mm-hmm.
I take out yellow Aether Spindles.
Okay.
I take out one tome of Findal, however you want to say it. We take out the tome because we're adding in cards. We're adding in a decent amount of cards that can't be hit off Sonic Boom.
Sure.
So we have to take out something that can,
Okay.
or something else that can't. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
You have to take out something that can't, so that your numbers don't your ratios don't like shoot up.
yeah, and then another card we take out is Blazing Aether.
Do you take out all three?
No, one. We take out one.
Okay.
One Blazing Aether. Because we assume them to be on AB3. And Blazing Aether is a really hard card to set up on AB3.
Sure. I can see that.
A lot of times it's going to come in for 3 damage, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's still a red zap at that point, but
Yeah.
that's not what you want out of the Blazing Aether.
Truth. So you got two enchanting melodies here. You have three scours, and I love scour. Actually, it's one of my favorites. It's sad that you can't do the thing we were just talking about with it. If it deals
Yeah.
0, you can't get the buff, which does make it worse. But I still like this card a lot. Into like Rune Blade, it feels so. I actually did this last Thursday. I was playing into a chain, and I drew this in my turn one hand. They started, so they like shackled up, and I just arsenaled it on my turn. Just waited 2 turns, blocked a little bit, and then just scoured, and they
Feels so
reset to
good.
0. Oh, it's so
So
nice.
I play this against Chain, Viscerai, and Prism. And it just comes in, nothing comes out. I just up the blue
Okay.
count in the deck.
Yeah.
I actually had a really good one the other day with Scour. I had one in Arsenal, just like you, playing against OTK Viscerai. And he broke Skeletor with 10 rune chants out, and I held priority. I broke my boots, activated weapon, and killed his 11 rune chants.
Oh my god.
And then let Skeletor resolve for 0. And he just stared at me like I was the worst person in the world. Yeah, it's really good against them.
Oh
It's also the
man.
only reason we can try to beat Aura Prism because the ability to kill off these irritating zero cost auras and the
Yep.
ability to kill every spectral shield
Yes.
while dealing
Yes.
damage after feels amazing.
That's the real kicker, is that you get to push arcane damage. Like if this was just removal, like you're like, okay, cool, but the fact that it also like advances your game plan of just burning them out, super solid card in my book. So you bring this in for all of those matchups, which is
Yeah,
exactly what I would
there's
suggest
actually
anybody do.
there's actually two rulings that have hit me that I find surprising on the card. One is surprising because I come from a magic background and I'm used to things being able to fizzle, and they
Hmm.
can't in this game. If it's the prison player's turn and I hit it off the top and I target 6 shields and they use their new helmet to kill one of them, you
Hmm.
still kill the other 5 and deal them 5.
Sure.
The card doesn't just stop working,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
a
what
good
I
point.
assumed would have happened
Yeah, that's a
because
good point.
you try to resolve as much of the card as possible.
Yeah.
And the other trigger that I really, or the other ruling that I really, really hate is if I'm playing against Viscerai and he has 6 rune chants out and he attacks me with his weapon or he attacks me with anything. The
Hmm.
triggers go on the stack and I can kill the rune chants in response, but I still take the damage from the rune chant.
Yeah, that one's a bit weird.
And I don't like any ruling for any of it, no matter how they could rule it. It just feels like an awkward question that I shouldn't have asked. Um,
I feel
but I
like
asked that at my
Kano brings up a lot of awkward
I
questions.
do. I asked that at my event yesterday, and we had like a 19-minute time extension while they figured out what was going to happen. And no one sounded sure of anything, so I just didn't do it. I was like, yeah, we'll go for something else. Like this became way more of a hassle than I thought it would be when I asked.
I can see that. Still a fantastic card, but one that is certainly a head scratcher. Okay, I think you have what? No, you have two more of these sigil of parapets, right? You have two sigils.
Yep. Those come in the Guardian matchup.
Sure.
It's one of the other cards. It is for the Oak. It's mainly for Starvo at this point because I don't get to see a lot of other Guardians.
Yeah.
And we only play it, and if they're coming in for lethal, you always play it, obviously. In situations where they're not killing us with the dominate attack, we only play this on crippling crushes and Oakenolds.
Yep.
We care about hit effects. Even though we're Kano and we can dump our hand, and we're gonna dump our hand to do this. At least this way, we're dumping our hand
And
and full
protecting
blocking.
ourselves. Yeah, exactly.
I actually that's how I beat Starvo. One of the Starvos, the guy I'd never beaten before. This is how I beat him. So he came in with a dominated Oakenold double Starvo trigger and fused, and I full blocked it while dealing him 12.
It's a nice trade there. You
Um,
you ended up on
yeah,
the right side of that bargain.
yeah.
So
And
you
this is the
swap this
card that
with
we
Gun,
added
right?
red zaps and blue zaps in for because the more zeros we have, the better that card becomes.
Sure. So with Starvo, you're bringing in these four cards, yeah?
The two behind it as well.
Okay, and then also
The ones
two
we have,
remembrances, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Remembrances we bring in and only the Guardian matchups. We don't bring it in against Prism because even if they're on Control Prism, we don't feel like we need it. And if they're
okay.
not Control Prism, we feel really bad that we had it. But for
Yes.
Guardian, no matter the Guardian, they're probably running at least 3 Arcane Barrier, 4 Arcane Barrier. So we can know that the game's probably going to go longer than we want. So we can block early and aggressively with Reds. Or if we just see Stirs and Fort Lightnings early, we can shove them back in the deck because those
Yeah.
are cards that always get over.
Okay. It makes a ton of sense. And I actually like Remembrance in a lot more decks than are running it right now. I feel like this is one of the most underrated cards in the meta, or in the game maybe, just because
I
if you're playing
I
a long
agree.
game and with like things like Oldhim that previous to this point were like just rampant. This is a card that if you are playing aggro into something like that, I feel like it's almost a shoe in sideboard card in.
I fully agree. Um, it wasn't in my old list. We used to have Chains of Eminence and Aetherize on our sideboard
Sure.
before the Everfest meta hit. Actually, I suppose I should say we had this before the Tales of Aria meta hit.
Mm.
Because those two cards against Chain were amazing. But once Chain got his well-deserved nerf, uh,
Yeah.
they became much less relevant.
So I
So
know. Oh, sorry. I did not mean to
no,
interrupt. I
you're fine.
apologize.
It was just we've actually had a lot of problems finding cards for replacements for things that we don't want.
Yeah.
Like one of the yellows that we were going to talk about was Chain Lightning,
Right.
and why we don't play it. And it's just such an awkward card to play around.
Yeah.
You need 3 cards to play with it itself, a card before it and a card after it.
Totally.
Um, but you also have to have the resources to play all 3 of those cards.
That's exactly
And
right,
one
and
of them,
it just doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Like it's one of those cards that really doesn't feel like it makes enough sense because we were saying this before. You have to jump through more hoops than it's almost worth. Like there are cards that do
yeah.
similar things that are just straight up better than that
Um,
card.
What's funny, one of my friends who plays Wizards, I showed him a few lines with it that people don't think of. Because those cards that do roughly the same thing that you think about are stirs and reverberates, right?
Yeah.
Well, stir into chain lightning's actually not awful
Yeah. No, it's not because it deals
because it
the
comes in for 6
it comes in
and
for
you still
6.
get to play a thing after.
Yeah.
And then reverberate into chain lightning is the same way.
Yep.
It's not awful, but it's such key cards that you have to have together to make chain lightning playable
Yeah.
that makes it super awkward.
Yeah. I would rather just play 3 Aether Spindles like you have, and I don't know why I didn't do that before. Okay,
Um,
so with this package right here, it's literally just 6 cards that you're bringing in for just for like Guardians, or would you consider
yes,
this all
just Guardians.
control?
Those all come in only against Guardians.
Okay, and then any other forms of control, what would you do? Like I guess control Prism. What's your game plan with auras?
Scours.
So you're only swapping in the scours, and are you removing
That's just
anything
that
for
one.
these sideboards?
No, any matchup that Scour comes in against, nothing comes out.
Okay.
We can't side out against Prism unless we know that we know the Prism player personally and we know that they're on AB4. We can't take cards out because if we try to take out reds or the awkward yellows
Yeah.
and then they flip over one arcane barrier and they're on aggro Prism, we feel like an
Sure.
idiot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you just
Um,
don't know and you end up pulling out cards that you desperately need. So you said in that Guardian matchup for this large swap, this is the only big swap that you have, which I think is actually hilarious.
yeah,
Yellow Aether Spindles, Tome of Fiendal, and which other card?
one Blazing Aether.
One Blazing Aether, and that's your full swap out. So look at
Yep,
this, everybody. If you wanted to play Kano, you don't have to memorize sideboards, like intricate sideboard guides. You just
you
take
don't.
these cards out. You just say goodbye to these. You yeet them off the table, and you put these ones in, and then you try to block out with like sigils and like block things with enchantings. That's super easy. Barely an inconvenience, some might say.
Um, I will say I used to run a lot more yellows because of Prism. Um, because Prism likes to run what's that stupid card?
Library.
Yeah, that one. Thank you. Prism likes to run library. That's also why we used to run Nourishing Emptiness.
Yes,
Um,
that's a card that's not in
because
here. Yeah,
I found it in almost every matchup it doesn't hit because the matchups that don't run Arcane Barrier, which is the majority of the field, you can't touch them with it. There's not a hero that if they're not running AB, you can touch with that card
sure.
because you don't have any other attacks to break their equipment.
Yeah,
And the heroes that do run it, you still can't touch them with it because Prism has shields
that's a
and
good point.
Guardians have shields.
Guardians have Guardian stuff. We just leave it at that. Let's be honest. Guardians are just
Like,
Guardians at this point.
um, I'll say the most interesting play I've done against a Prism was before Everfest when I still ran those. And a Prism player library me on their turn one. And I triggered their library because they went first. I did Kano things on their turn, pitching yellows, drawing
Oh,
up to 5.
that's interesting.
And then I went into my turn and I pitched yellows to Kano from the top and used my last card to play a nourishing from hand, going up to 6.
That's cool. That's actually really
Um,
cool.
and that was an interesting play on my part because my opponent was concerned
You
because they
don't
taken as
say.
much. Yeah, they had taken as much damage as I had. Or sorry, we were at equal life totals.
Yeah, after one
Which
turn,
means they took
basically.
yeah, but they took 10 more than I did because we were at actual equal life totals. But I had 6 cards in hand.
Well, that's a
And
way to
he
do a
did not
matchup,
seem
man.
pleased.
That's so cool. Dude, I thoroughly appreciate you talking us through the way you've constructed this deck. I feel like we covered a lot. Let's see, we covered the deck contents, the overall game plan of just sort of burning people out in aggro, just kind of taking damage and trading it, and then swapping into control matchups where we're stealing cards from hand. You say you play this deck more off the top. You were saying, like before we started, this is more off the
Yes.
top than normal.
Yes, we want to try to see at least our smallest number of cards we want to see in an aggro matchup or a control matchup really is 5 cards a turn. But we're aiming to see 6. So we want our 4 card hand and we want to see 2 from the top.
Okay,
If we're going to banish or play them is another story, but we want to at least see them. We count seeing them with scry effects as well.
sure.
So if we can see a spindle off the top for 5, that's a 9. What? That's I guess if it's coming from 5, we saw 10 cards that turn because we
Yeah.
had our 4 from hand, it from the top at +5. And like as long as we can filter and set what we need, you're not going to lose an aggro race, and it helps mitigate the awkward draws.
It's true. Yeah, and you just dig, man. When you play like that off the top, this is why I think I need to do that more because being able to dig like that allows you to just find the stuff that you need to win the game early.
It does, because most of my matchups don't last beyond turn 3, and I'm counting that as their turn, my turn, their turn. I may not get a second turn.
That's the
I
way
think
Kano should be, man.
I think over the last 2 days for my what was that 15 games? That sounds right. 8 and 7, yeah, 15 games. I think maybe 5 of them went past my second turn if they were on the play. And those 5 were against Starvos, and 2 of those still ended on turn 4. I got one tunic trigger.
So there's another
Real
benefit to
expensive
playing
piece
this
of iron
deck,
rod.
man. You get to go and like have a snack, get some lunch. Your
You do.
games end quick, right?
Oh, Saturday, I played against the Bravo, and I had to go Starvo. I had to go ask a judge before the round started because I had just bought food at the cafe there, and they said they'll text me when it's done. I was like, "Hey, can I have my phone out? That way, if it goes off, I can call you over. I can see if it's my food, so that it's not just sitting in the corner where it's
Yeah.
someone about to eat it that's not me." And then as soon as the match started, my food got ready. Um, so we called the judge over. He said I could grab it, and I hear from behind me as I go to get up to grab it. My opponent goes, "So can we get a time extension for this?" And that's how we all knew he'd never played against a Kano because the six people around us just all started laughing. And he looked so confused. I was like, "You won't need it, but sure." Uh,
That's Kano,
because it took us
man.
all of 5 minutes.
Yep, that's Kano. It's just going to end it some way. Either you light them on fire or they punch your face in. It's one of the two.
um, I will say one of the lines of play or one of the things you can do I'd like to go over is with the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
At any point before they've taken the damage, you can do that. So was playing against Starvo. I played less than lava for 4 with 1 floating. And they had Crown of Seeds and AB3, and I needed this to hit so I could go get my D-React because I have to have the D-React at some point to win that game.
Okay.
And the judge was watching too, and he was a Kano player, which was funny because he did not know you could do this. If they activate Crown of Seeds, you can allow the crown to respond, and you have priority once it resolves.
Yeah.
They're not in the blocked step. The card is still considered played. You
Mm-hmm.
can use the gloves.
Sure.
As long as we're before they've said activate null room, the gloves are an option at any point in time. Or as
Yeah.
long as we're at a point before they say take the damage
Take
if
the
they're not going to
damage.
use
Yeah.
null room.
Yeah. If they take the
Um,
damage, that's the point, right?
yeah. So once you say play, you pass them priority. If they do anything that isn't take the damage or activate null room, you can
Play
respond
goes
with
back
these
to you.
gloves.
Yeah, play goes back to you because both
Um,
players have to pass in succession.
and
So yeah, you can
I've
always
noticed a
just come
lot
in.
of Kano players don't realize that they can do that, especially against Prism opponents and now Starvos where they have actual interaction before the card resolves. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very interesting thing to do. Um,
To let it resolve, make them assume that like they're blocking out some amount of damage, and then just on the top of them activating Null Rune, go Metacarpus node.
yeah, well, if they're at the point of declaring activation, you can no longer respond.
Okay, so when would you do this then? You would.
So against Bravo, if they use Sting of Sorcery's God, they've used Crown of Seeds. You can either do it in response to the crown itself, or you can do it once the crown resolves. Just make sure you tell them you're holding priority.
Okay.
Um, for Prism, it would be in response to them playing an aura, them play activating Prism's ability. And again, you can do it before or after. Just if you're doing it after, make sure that you stress I'm holding priority once that resolves. I find it best to say it ahead of time
Yeah.
so they don't start moving too fast and they get upset when you're like, no, I want priority there.
Yep. So that you can then
Um,
Metacarpus node and just go over the top what they expected.
yep. It also works very well when Starvos have to filter on their own turn, which Crown of Seeds.
Sure.
The cost of Crown of Seeds is paying the resource and putting the card on the bottom.
Yes.
Once that cost is paid, is when you're allowed to respond.
Before
So
the
you can
draw.
respond to that. They're not getting that 1 damage prevention, and they can't activate it in response. So you can try to KO from there.
Right.
You can also try to get rid of the cards from their hand, so that they don't have that extra card to try to pitch with. So they have to use the cards they were planning on using that turn to block your damage.
Yeah. Which is one of the most
Um,
little powerful lines. That's very intricate, you know?
It is, and it takes a lot of getting used to and remembering that you want priority. Because as a wizard, the most important part of the game is there's no such thing as your turn, my turn. There's our turn and my turn.
Yep. It's
Because
weirdly enough, I feel like it's oftentimes just playing in the gray lines, you know, like gray areas, those just like weird lines of timing is where you
yeah,
get the most value off of wizard things.
I will say that if anyone wants to just get better at the game in general on learning sequencing or proper timing, play Wizards. Play it a lot.
Yeah, that's a good
You may
point.
not like the deck style, but it will force you to learn sequencing and it will force you to learn timing.
You have to because that's
Um,
how he does things, and if you don't, then you're just stuck
yep.
doing it.
Um, and the last thing I wanted to say was we didn't go over the weapon any. Because I've met players that didn't know that there was a weapon that wasn't this one or the new one. There are three wizard weapons. The other two just suck.
This is true. This is the one,
Um,
man.
that's the only wizard weapon I would ever suggest running. And people say that you can use Kraken's Aether Vein for Islander. No. You just shouldn't be playing Islander in the first place.
No, don't say that. I'm gonna play Icelander. Get out of here with that. She's
You're
fun.
since this is your stream, I'm not going to insult you, but just know that that's what's there.
Hey, sometimes you
Um,
just play a hero because you enjoy it. You don't have to. You don't have to light everybody on fire.
this
Sometimes
is
they get a little
true.
icy too.
As long as you enjoy it, it's fine. My biggest problem with wizards in general is Kano himself. Um, his ability makes it where unless they print a super busted card behind a talent or just another different busted wizard, I can't feasibly see myself leaving him.
He's too fun too. I will say that he is incredibly
I,
fun to play,
I can't imagine a wizard ability that's not Kano's that I don't find better.
or more
Um,
engaging. Right? It's just such
yeah,
an engaging way. It's so thematic, and they just nailed it right out of the park with what Kano can do, how he plays, and how combo he is, and how wizard he feels. Right?
yeah. It's
Yep.
such a hard thing to get around because, like, for me, they would either if they just printed like an okay wizard that has a talent, like for me to swap to that wizard, they'd have to have some really good talent cards, which would break the ballot.
Yeah. Yep. I
Um,
agree with that.
like
Totally agree with that.
excluding play style, if I'm just going off of actual playability, I can't think of a reason I would ever swap from Kano if I'm going to a different wizard.
Yep.
Which they could show me. There could just be cards they have that I just can't fathom because my mind didn't go in that direction.
Well,
Like I never
dude,
thought I'd see Aether Wildfire.
exactly right.
If you'd have told me 2 months ago that they're going to print an Aether Flare that hits the board, I would have laughed at you.
I think if we go to Volcor, I think they have some very interesting things up the sleeve. And I think because we know that James White likes Wizard and has had a specific hero that has sort of been with him since the beginning, I have a feeling that said specific hero may just be another wizard that can do something else that's really fun.
Hey,
And so
see, I've heard that.
I'm not underrating what could come because I feel like there's so much unexplored space that who knows.
See, I've heard that James White likes wizards, and I know that he was on the design team for the wizard class. Um, but seeing the cards, or seeing the Runeblade boots in particular, that's just a better version of our boots, um, makes me disagree and say that he doesn't like wizards.
I can
It's because you
understand
just
that.
imagine Spellblade Creepers if you remove the word attack from it and write the word wizard at the bottom.
Yeah, Spellbound Creeper would be fantastic, just straight up. I mean, even I mean everything about Spellbound Creepers is fantastic, and you could just
Like,
swap it into
get,
Kano, and it would be
give me a
interesting.
continuous use of my boots, please, for the love of God.
It's too good though if you put it in Wizard. That's the problem. Is if you put that in Wizard, it is just far and away too good. It would be disgusting because you're the one that's dealing arcane damage consistently. So like it would ramp for so many turns that it would just be a bannable card from the outset. So I guess there's a reason why it's not in Kano and it's
You're
instead
right.
in Runeblade.
I think if it was printed as a wizard card, it would have been banned before it was released.
Yes, it would be the Dusk Blade of Wizard, man. I'm not kidding. It just would be. That would be too powerful. Hey, man, I thoroughly appreciate you hopping on with us and walking us through your deck. I am so happy that you are doing so well with Kano because I've just fallen in love with Wizard over, I guess, like the past year. It's just been for me a fantastic little trip getting good and getting like understanding of what Wizard can do with Crucible of Aetherweave and all of these crazy cards. And I hope that with us talking about this and taking like a deep dive into this deck, that more people just jump on the bandwagon and try him out because he's super fun.
I agree. I think more people need to play him. He is much better than most people give him credit for, and I think he's well placed in this meta. And thank you for having me here. It was a great time discussing and interacting with you.
Totally agree. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to pop up here and make a number go to a number. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching. And boom, done. We did it. That was fun, man.
It was fun.
Dude, that was an
I need
hour
more
and
wizard
20
friends.
minutes.
So it's funny because do you know Alex Vore?
Yeah. Well, I don't know him
He
personally, but I know.
you
Like
know
I casted his wizard games at the Callings, right?
okay, so yeah, you know he's also a wizard player.
Yeah.
He's not on wizard right now.
What's he playing?
He's on
Prism?
this.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I messaged him like 2 days ago to see how he was doing because I just kind of assumed he was still on it. And he said he can't play it. His meta isn't good for it. He's running into prisms and he can't beat them.
Well, that's a smart meta call if you're looking at it and you're going, this matchup feels like less favorable. I can understand that, but hopefully he jumps back on. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I feel like his
He
game
is.
in Nationals was one of the reasons why people are interested again in playing Kano.
I
Because
agree, and
game,
I'm so glad he did so good.
that game was insane, man.
I've been trying so hard. Like at Vegas, I missed the top 64 by like 8 slots. And the same thing for Nationals. I missed it out by like 2 games.
That's tough.
Like I just keep
Wait.
falling just
Top 64? Oh, no, wait. It cuts something different at Nats, right?
Nets was top 64 gets cash, but it was only top 8 that kept playing.
Oh, gets cash. Okay, that's what it was.
Or it wasn't even cash. We got paid. We didn't get cash.
Sure.
But
Did
yeah, I did get my top 64. I actually had to beat out a Prism in the final round to
Did
stay in top
Alex-
64.
Did Alex get top 64? I can't remember where he finished.
He did. He got better than I did. He was upper 20s, I think.
Okay, I was gonna say because his record going into that game was like, I feel like I remember it was being like really good.
He was for the long. I think until like the last round, he was still in contention for top 8,
That's cool.
which is what I was hoping for.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I wanted one of us to be there.
Yeah. Well, good for him. I mean, working that way.
Yeah, I'm so happy he did good.
I hope he hops on Kano, but at the same time, I also just want him to be successful. So I totally get
Yeah.
the idea of swapping. But man, it's awesome to have you come and talk through this deck with me. And I am, by the way, I am going to take this list and absolutely do terribly with it on Thursday when I play some webcam games. So if
I
I
have full faith
if I,
in you.
if I do horribly with it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say that it's the deck list and definitely not the
Okay.
No, that's not true. I can't.
Are
do
you gonna
that.
be live streaming this?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe I will. Maybe
You
I
should
will.
live stream it so I can come in the chat, and every time you misplay, I'm just gonna comment.
Well, that's going to be every turn. So get your
That's
fingers,
fine.
your typing fingers ready.
I'm ready. I do IT work. All I do is type.
That's the play, man. That's the way to
It's gonna be
do
really
it.
fun. But if it happens, you can't tell anyone who I am.
Just some random guy. What's he
Yeah,
doing?
you should
on
like the
here?
random, and I'm gonna use really vague ways to tell you I think you're doing it wrong, so they all think I'm wrong.
Oh my god.
But then at the end, you're like, yeah, that guy
No.
that was commenting, this is his deck. He's the one who went top 8 with it.
Oh, dude, I feel like I don't want to, because here's the thing about chat. Sometimes chat, they want to protect and they want to,
I'm okay with that.
worry.
I'm
I worry
aware that they're
about
gonna want to
flaming.
protect, and I just want to troll them until the end of the match. And be like, hey guys, I know y'all are protecting me, but this is his deck. He's right.
Oh, okay, maybe we'll play that out. I don't know. There's also a chance. Here's the thing. So my plan is to sit down and grind out. I'm gonna see if I can edit this quick, and if I can't edit it quick, then I'll do the edits tomorrow and release it on Wednesday. But my plan is to have this up, sort of like deep dive style, over one of the next 2 days. So, but what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go on my Patreon and I'm just gonna upload this entire thing. And then people, if they want to listen to the long version, they can listen to all hour and a half of us chilling, which I guess will be fun for them.
Was it really that long?
Well, it's still going right now. It's an hour 23 and 30 seconds.
Wow, that felt way shorter than that.
Right? Well, see, this is the beauty of talking about Kano, everyone. If you're
That's
if you're
true.
somehow watching this right now,
Right. I mean, the government,
that's, you're not wrong. But yeah, no, that's if you're watching it because I uploaded this to Patreon, then there you go, hour and a half in, and we're still just going on Kano because he's cool.
he is.
That's why.
He has so many lines that, like, I could sit there and all day and find different lines every 5 minutes that you just wouldn't think of normally.
It is very true, and that's why he rewards being played.
Um,
You
I will
know,
say a matchup that if you run into, I don't think you ever will, but control dash is really awful.
that's a good point. Ooh,
You
that's a very good
like
point.
item dash back in the day before they printed out cards that just beat it. Um, it was worse than our Prism matchup used to be.
Really?
So they start off with AB4, and then if they choose to use the helmet, which I guess they never, they just have AB4 naturally without giving up anything they care about.
Yeah.
And the deck is mostly blues, so they can use a
Yeah, that's
blue
true.
to attack us for 6, and then they can keep 3 blues to block.
Yep.
And then on my turn, they can double blue block, use a blue to attack, and still block for 3. It
Yeah,
was
I could see how
awful.
that would be bad too.
It felt so bad.
I wonder is
It was a. I think it's a matchup I can say I've never won.
I feel like
Which now I have Wildfire, so I might be able to beat it now.
I was gonna say I feel like that's still a bad matchup, and I feel like I was expecting actually Control Dash to do a little bit of something because you
Um,
can just like kind of blue things out exactly in that respect, but maybe not because Dominate's super good.
Starva.
Yeah, Dominate's super good with Starva.
No, that's not even the issue in my opinion. Like starting on, unless they get lucky with the items, all they're doing is 2 or 3 attacks a turn,
Mm,
and one shield and a blue pitch stops all of that.
yeah,
Blue pitch, activate crown, block with shield. They break chain, block with shield, and you pay 2 resources into it now, and you just free block for the rest of it.
it's a very good point.
And I
Yeah,
don't know how they get over that.
that's probably why we don't see it. That and it's just not very prevalent in like the community. I think.
Yeah, well, I hate, and that's why I try not to say it a lot. I hate when people say decks aren't playable in a meta. Because if you're anyone with any form of what's the word I'm looking for? If you're a promoter, if you're an influencer, that's the word I
Sure.
was looking for. People are just going to listen to what you say.
That's
Like
true, man.
I'm not gonna say everyone's brainless and just gonna follow blindly, but everyone's brainless and they're gonna follow blindly.
You're not gonna
So if
say it
you
though. Don't say it.
yeah, I'm not gonna say it, but it might be a thing that happens. So like if you just go, this deck can't play in this meta, there's going to be a portion of people that instead of testing it and researching it, is just going to listen. And you might be wrong.
There's always a chance. That's why I think
Like
it's very important as like for me, for example, I take this very seriously. As far as like talking about the way that I talk about matchups or the way that I talk about heroes, I feel very guarded because of that exact thing. If I say, and people watch, and then they take my word for it, and I'm wrong, I feel like I have a responsibility to guard my words carefully, or just be very guaranteed in my assessment. And sometimes I just feel very guaranteed in my assessment, but if I don't want to say something that leads someone astray. Because I feel like that's
I'm not
like you
very
said earlier. That's
happy.
that's how that's how Kano was kind of portrayed, right?
Yeah, he was portrayed like I was always told that he's just unplayable in constructed. I got a top 4 finish at Road to Nats and a top 8 finish at Road to Nats. That's how I got my invite to nationals. I got 53rd at nationals, and then I have 2 top 8s. Well, a top 8 and a top 4 for ProQuest. And people are still saying he just can't be played.
And I also think this too. I think specifically for Kano, I think there's this argument that might be made of like, yes, well, people don't know like what the cards do or like what the lines of play are, and I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, you're probably right. There's probably a lot of people that don't, and they'll be like, yeah, that's the reason that you find success with it. But I would actually argue that's not necessarily the case because even if you know the lines of play, it's fundamentally just like very difficult to stop it. You
It
know?
is. Um, I actually have this argument with one of my friends a lot. He thinks Kano is toxic. And I, in part, agree with him, but not for any of the reasons he lists.
Okay.
And I don't remember the reasons he lists, but I disagree with all of them. I dislike decks in a card game that every other deck doesn't have some out for, right? Like a viable, consistent way to ensure there's not a blowout. And like I'll go with like Briar, for example, with 49 plus reds in the deck. he realistically has no option other than racing me.
Right.
And that's not realistically a thing that's super easy to do.
Yeah.
Because if he tries, he can try to play Arcane Barrier, and I've had people say, "Oh no, he can play Arcane Barrier." Yeah, you're right, and he can go pitch 3/4 attacks to block 3 damage off of my Sonic Boom, take damage. I get to play another card. He used 12 attack to block 3. That's not viable. It's not sustainable. He can't play a turn anymore,
Yeah.
or she, because Briar's a female. Um, so like in a sense, I feel that Kano may be a little or
I agree. Undervalued is a
a
great way
little
to
on the
put it.
hard side to balance. I think that's why we don't see a lot. I think that's why we haven't seen wizard cards yet, like a lot of wizard cards yet, because it's a slippery slope to one mistake means you either have to ban a card or
Yeah.
the deck runs away.
It's true. I totally agree with that statement and that sentiment overall.
Um, but
It's fun though. It's incredibly fun to play, and as long as, and this is again as far as Volcor and like a set is concerned, as long as they're aware and able to continue like that testing cycle of the set, I feel like they can deliver something absolutely incredible for this class in general, because this class is like, I feel like has so much design space based on just playing at instant speed.
I agree. I love it. And I'll say for your page, you said you're putting this on your Patreon.
I think so, yeah. The full version, the non-edited version.
I'll say for the people watching this on Patreon, I'm not saying that this wins every aggro race. It doesn't. You can outdraw me. I can draw poorly. You can outplay me. It's not a guarantee win, but it feels good. Like I always feel much better sitting down in front of a Bolton or a Briar or insert Warrior Broomblade deck here than I do sitting in front of a Prism or a Guardian. Because I
Right.
know that those matchups are going to be grindy. They're going to take a lot of time, and I'm not going to have as much fun. I enjoy the just hit big game.
Yeah.
That's a fun hand.
Yeah, what are you
Yeah,
doing
okay.
here?
That is a yellow.
What's your play here?
What am I playing against?
I don't know. What's the majority of the field? I guess Starvo, right?
Yeah, so play here against Starbo would be pitch, reverberate, weapon, into spindle,
Yeah.
arsenal that tome. Well, I
Right.
guess play is put a counter on your tome of Findal.
This is
Then do
essentially
that.
what I'm thinking. Yeah, of course you start with Tick the Tunic to 1. But
Yeah.
for
And
me,
then
oh, not to 4. That'd be amazing if you took the Tunic to 4. But then
right.
Crucible. Ooh, I almost bumped the
Yep.
deck. Crucible, Aether Spindle, pitch Aether Spindle, and Arsenal here, right?
Yep, that is exactly what I would do. And
This is the
depending on what it
play.
hits for.
This is the play I would have done probably against aggro too. But is that wrong?
Against aggro, if I'm playing against Briar here, I probably don't arsenal the tome. I
Do you ever look
probably
to like? I guess you could go like
I would go
reverberate Aether
I would
Spindle.
not use Crucible on Reverberate.
Right, you'd
I
use
would
it
go
on Aether
blank
Spindle.
Reverberate,
Right.
banish Spindle, and
Yeah.
then that.
Yeah.
That's my play against an aggro deck because that
Here,
takes your 4 resources.
yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say here you have to double pitch to do this, but I feel like this is better because in a race scenario you're probably just nailing that
Because
down.
if you lost the roll and you're on the play, and they're on no AB obviously because they're Briar or whoever,
Right.
they're at 2 health higher than you now, and you set your top 5.
Yeah.
Which how would you set your top 5?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Oh, it's easy.
I don't know. I think I would take literally this, right?
Yeah, that's your top 5.
Literally this, because if you set this back down, you're drawing the 4 pitch cards, and you are on their turn. How many times do you Kano here? Because you have 3 blues.
I look at the damage they're putting out, and I decide based off that.
Okay.
If they are, I probably take the first 2 attacks, no matter what they are. And then if I am still above 17, I probably don't do it here. I probably do it on my turn.
You triple Kano on your turn?
Yeah, I will Kano, look at the top, and if you see a tome on top, you always look a card deeper on this hand.
Okay, so if it's your turn, then you full take whatever they send.
Yep.
Okay. And on your turn, you would Kano,
You
find
see
a
tome, and
tome,
you always look 1 card deeper
and then you Kano
with this
again.
hand, not with the E-pot.
Oh, oh, that's true. That's a very good point, because you can stick the E-Pod if you don't.
So I banish that. I look, and I don't banish that card.
Okay, so this just stays on top. and you
You play
draw
out the
it.
tome.
You play out this, or you play out the tome.
You play out the tome. Draw two.
Oh, okay. You just straight up draw
Not that
two.
tome. Other tome. Sorry, the banished one.
Oh, dude, duh. Yeah. Okay, draw the two.
Oh,
Because that draws you into a blue, and then you have a red Aether Spindle in hand,
and
unfortunately.
you haven't used your action point. So I would
Oh,
pitch.
this is
This is where I
true.
would pitch the E-pot to look at the
Okay.
top. Or no, we would. It's aggro here.
Yeah, yeah, we're playing against
Um,
aggro, so here we just,
I
like,
would go ahead
jam
and
Aether,
spindle
right?
for 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
go ahead
jam
and
the
spindle
Aether
for 5
Spindle.
to set the top.
Right. Do you ever Arsenal Tome here? I think that just makes sense, right?
It depends on what you see off this top 5.
Okay.
And then since I saw the Sonic Boom, we know we don't. Actually,
That's
whew,
a hand.
so how many cards in hand?
Two. We got a yellow and a blue.
Oh, this is awkward. You put your tunic up to 2.
Yeah, we should be on two, technically.
So what's funny is if you had one more blue in this,
Yeah, it
you don't
works, right?
arsenal any card and you don't play any card.
Because
If you
want
had
to
another
draw.
blue in this,
You want to draw, like,
because
that setup or something like that, where you'd have the
uh,
resources.
yeah. So you want you want 4 blues with Wildfire, Sonic Boom, because that's
Sure.
what it takes to play it. But you don't have it. So here it's it's an aggro race.
Yeah.
So I probably put Sonic Boom, Wildfire.
Okay.
And I put the Stir on the bottom,
So you'd go blue
and I
here.
put the blue below the Wildfire. Stir
you
goes to the
go-
bottom of the deck.
Oh, okay. Tuck completely. And then blue
Um,
Aether Flare.
Yep.
And then Aether Wildfire. And then Sonic you draw.
No, you do it now.
You do it now.
Yeah. So
So
you
you
put
would-
those 2 cards on top. You
Okay.
pitch, activate Kano,
Yep.
play out Sonic Boom.
I guess that's true, yeah, because then you're going to chain the Sonic Boom again, right? Because it's Sonic
Into the
Boom's going to
Wildfire.
hit, and then you'll go
Yep.
here. And then that'll land
And then
in
you put the Wildfire. Yep.
This is all on my turn. So I'm just doing
Yeah,
this for value.
So you hit them for 8 on your first turn, and we said they put you to 17. This turn, you've hit them for 5, plus 6 is 11, plus 4 is 15.
Sure.
So you've hit them for 19. They're at 20. You're at 17.
Okay.
You're winning this race. You've dealt them 7 more damage
yeah,
than they've
of
dealt
course.
you. And then
there
you draw.
I guess because you don't have the blues, there's never a
Yeah,
reason
because-
to try and set, right?
If we wouldn't have seen that first blue off the top, and we could have just played out the energy pot. Wow, this is a good hand. Did you?
I shuffled a lot.
Did you actually no? Because we didn't have a Aether Flare. Okay, I was making sure you didn't accidentally put them on top. So here, if they're not coming for lethal, we don't do anything.
And we wait till our turn so we can do the same sort of stuff.
Yep. If they're coming in for lethal,
Throw the skull cap, man, of course.
the skull cap goes. And if they break chain, the skull cap will go again.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they do.
So
on
here
your turn,
tick up the tunic to 3.
you look with Scalding Rain here.
Yes, because you can technically play a snapback, right? And then Aether
Or an
Flare
Aether
has
Flare,
some
yep.
value, sure. So we scald
but remember-
we just blue reverberate is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. This is where you pitch the snapback. Oh, this is awful. So you have 2 options here. You could choose not to banish, and you could play the tome with the tunic mana
Yeah.
to ensure that you're drawing at least a blue, which is probably the best play than just looking at the next card.
So literally just going this tunic, draw 2,
Draw 2.
1, 2, and
Not a
then
red.
you could and then you can pitch here.
Yeah, you pitch Reverberate here.
Yep. Red snapback comes out. I feel like you could pitch
Pretty
into,
good.
pitch into it again,
You,
right?
you, you pitch into it again
And then
because you have
Aether
4
Flare,
resources to do things. Yep.
tome. That seems
Play
like
it
a
out
good.
to draw 2.
That seems like a good play.
That was a real good draw there. Oh, beautiful. So the reason we didn't activate before we played that tome was because you're at a 2-card hand. And you've seen a lot of reds this game.
Yeah, you want.
So odds are there's blues on tops.
Yep.
So we don't want to pitch into a blue.
Okay, so then you go blue reverberate again, I would imagine.
Yeah, right now, as long as it's not the snapback, you're fine with whatever you pitch.
Bingo.
So just not snapback. Super good.
Yep.
So this is where we stop looking. We
This is a
Pitch
blue pitch
snapback.
for 3.
so So you're gonna play the stir, activate weapon.
Stir, zap, and then snapback.
Yep.
Is that the play
Yep.
here?
We actually activate gloves here because you're not gonna get another chance. Realistically, to affect well, it's on play. Technically. So it would be play the zap.
Yeah, this doesn't come yet. I was
Yeah.
just thinking about it while
Yeah.
you were talking about it because it was an interesting point. Yeah, this is how you would sequence it because you have to
Yeah.
do this after
And
the
you
play.
pitch the
And
blue
then
there to
this.
do it. So that
Yep.
comes in for 3,
1, 2,
4,
3.
7, 8, plus 4 is 12.
This covered that plus the crucible.
Yep.
And this is
And then
free. Then this
zap
is
covers.
one. Yeah, zap covers this and then again.
Yep. So that comes
Right.
in for 12. So that puts them to 8. And you're both probably within lethal range.
Yeah,
Well, they are within lethal range. You probably are as well.
most likely.
Um,
Because we've full taken basically just about everything.
yeah.
Hey, double red Aether Flare.
That's not a good hand.
No, it is not. It is a horrible
That's
hand.
that's probably a block out hand. You get your second skull cap trigger here, and you get your you lose your tunic here.
I think we have to do this, yeah, and
Yep.
then just slam down the E-pot on our turn.
You just slam an E-pot, and you probably live from that, and you're not happy about it, but
But you're looking for a time where you can pop Storm Striders with blues. Oh crap! And you lose.
no, they're
Gosh,
at
dang.
8. You win off this hand.
Do you?
Yeah, so you pitch.
I guess if you can pay for the if you pitch these
so they're
to
they're
play
no
Aether.
no you keep those. That's how you win. They're at 8.
Oh, reverberate blade. Yeah, I guess that's true.
So it's pitch, activate weapon, pitch zap, activate weapon, or pitch wildfire, doesn't matter. Pitch wildfire, break boots,
Yep.
break E-pot,
Oh, I
reverberate for
forgot
4.
Dude, I forgot we put an E-pot down.
Yep. Reverberate for 4, banish wildfire, blazing aether for 4. That's its Zatsies. Feels good to win off of a 4 red hand, doesn't it?
If they don't have, yeah, it does. If they don't have a way to stop that, it's exact. Now, here's the thing. I was playing a game against Chain, and I had exact lethal put up, but I guess Chain, because he used Chain, had the ability to pitch in and stop right at the end. So if they do have the ability to pitch in at that point, you can, I guess, consider still blocking out with something like this. If they, if they're not at 8 too.
If you can live, and full block out, you just do with that hand.
This is again one
If
of those.
you can't go into lethal.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where it's like, by the way, just don't forget this blocks 12.
Yeah,
Like,
that just blocks 12. Like, neat.
if you had to block 12, what is the next hand?
Probably lethal.
Eh,
That is lethal.
yeah, because you still have the boots up.
Yeah, because it's break boots, play wildfire for 5,
Yeah.
and then play out the snapback for 8.
Resource-wise, we have 5 resources available to us. So 2,
Yep.
3, 4 here, and then 5. Yeah,
And the
'cause
block's
it's a
3.
race. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. This is super fun. I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
It's hard to dry run against decks that have null rune because you have to guesstimate what their hand is.
Yeah.
And even Chain, like one of the players I play against, Sebastian from the Card Guys. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know
Yeah.
them. He plays 3 AB against me on Chain.
Yeah.
And I beat
There's a
him
lot of
more
blues,
often
man.
than not.
There's a lot of blues. I'm telling you.
There are, but with Chain, if they're soul shackling and having a 2-card hand every turn, I don't care. The deck doesn't have enough blood debt hits for me to be scared early game.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
I'm digging
actually.
for a scour to set them back to the Stone Ages anyway.
That is very accurate, actually. If they play off a 2-card hand, they're probably going to die either 2 blood debt or they're just going to banish their entire deck and have nothing at the end. Which
I mean, if they ever go empty-handed, they die. And if they don't go empty-handed, they're just giving us time. Because
I
if
have to think to,
if we get
I
to
have
go to
think
our turn,
Kano more on my turn. I don't do that enough.
I see a lot of people, especially if they see like blue, red, yellow, they won't look at Kano. They'll just play whatever the red is.
Like on their
And that's a
turn, you mean?
perfectly fine hand to look. We didn't get to see any of the super interesting lines of play though. Like I think our most interesting line was the reverberate into the Aether Spindle on our first turn.
Yeah, actually, I agree. That was a fun one. I don't know. Some of those lethal lines I didn't see, but that's just because I'm not as good. You're the
You're
master.
good. You just haven't played it. I I hope they have it recorded. There's a store down in Florida that I played at for the Road to Nationals. And they had a stream going for the event. And all of their stream just wanted me to win. I thought it was hilarious. But they brought me on the stream because I did a scry 12 on my turn, and it
Jeez.
took me probably, I don't know, I'd say about 5 seconds to set my scry 12. And they called me back after the thing, like, how did you do that fast? And I was like, well, I have like probably 500 hours of Kano time in. Like,
You just know, man. You
you
just
see it,
know.
and you're just like, it's like if you ask someone who knows how to drive a stick how they know when to shift.
Oh,
Well,
that's
I
a very good
mean,
point. When you
you've
do
done
it,
it forever. You can tell.
that's a very valid connection. Actually, that's a really good analogy.
Like just once you've grinded it as much as I have, like all of the lines just magically line up in your head, and you're like, yeah, this is how this works.
It's like the meme of the Hangover where they're like trying to count cards, and Zach
Yeah,
Galifianakis sees all the lines. He just sees
I
the
will
lines.
say that the way I play this deck will probably be different than you, because I do know how to count cards. I did a lot of mathematical stuff in high school. I
Yeah.
did 4 AP math classes before I graduated. So my deck is based off statistics and how I value cards in the matchup based off what I've seen. So the numbers constantly change. It's why I Kano really fast because I know if I'm going to Kano or not.
Yeah.
Um, it's
You're
also
doing
why
it. Are
people
you
like,
doing it with like a plus minus system, like you would with counting cards in blackjack?
yes, a plus minus system,
Yeah.
and then the division based off of what I've pitched changes everything. Until I hit a lesson in lava, then everything resets, which throws things off.
Why does lesson? Oh, I guess because you're playing when you play a lesson
Shuffles.
level. Yeah, it shuffles everything. Sure. Yeah. I
Um,
thought you meant like when you Kano to lesson level, like lesson and
yeah.
lava, boom, and then like everything. No, I was like
I mean,
when you
everything's
play one
about to
day.
change because I'm about to play it.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point. Yeah.
there's also that my numbers change constantly because I value them differently based off the situation.
Yeah,
It's
and like
it's
a
not like
certain
in
matchup, right?
yeah, well, about in certain matchups and with what we've seen in the matchup. Like I don't if they're not at lethal or if I have reds in hand, Fort Lightning is not valued as a high card
Sure. Yeah.
because I
That's a
can't
good. Yeah.
play it reasonably. So if I know I pitched one or two, the count goes really well in my favor. So the average cost of what's left in the deck throws a lot in there, and what I've already seen to the bottom. Because unless I lessen, I know I'm probably not seeing it again. Which is also why I like Kano because I play it that way and I like math. And it also means I get 45 minutes to take a break in between rounds because my head starts hurting after about 4, maybe 5 rounds of that.
I can imagine.
You
I
see
can
me in the
imagine.
corner just rubbing my head like, okay, this will end soon. Go nap.
Unless you're playing in the finals of Worlds, who knows, man?
I really would love to play in the finals of Worlds with Kano.
Dude, how sick would that? That would be the sickest. All right, man.
It's
I'm gonna
funny.
press. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Also, and if I ever make like top 8 for like the Pro Tour or anything, the night before, because they do it the next day, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
online. I'm gonna buy all of the Wizard staples,
Oh, you should. You should already
all
do
of
that.
them. Nah, I can't afford it right now. But if I know if I'm gonna cause the price spike, I'm gonna buy them the night before.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like you were gonna go get them and then play them. I was like, I don't know if
No,
you're
no,
gonna
no.
get 1 day shipping on that, but sure, man.
No, I already have like if I make it to the Pro Tour and I just make it to top 8 that night before we play top 8, I'm buying all of the Wizard staples I can from TCG Player, all of them.
And then
They're
just
all mine now.
watching the prices moon or something. I could see that. That's funny.
The world gets to see Kano did top 8 at Pro Tour or Kano won the Pro Tour. Like, buy the Wizard cards. Where are they at? They're all gone.
Dude, I hope
This
that
is
happens. I want Wizard
this
to
is an
shoot
awful mirror match, by the way.
the Wizard
This mirror
mirror
match
match.
sucks. It's awful.
I don't know, man. I played an Icelander mirror. Well, that's not true. I played Icelander into Kano. It felt fantastic.
Um, really?
It did. I started the game. It was my turn in Blitz, and I channel like Frigid pitching a Blizzard.
I'm gonna respond to that
Yeah, and he thought
every
about it for a
time.
minute. He thought about it for a minute, and
I suppose if my hand is bad, I can't
it
respond to
was
it, so it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
it was not a good hand. I think he had like a three red hand or something like that.
Oh, I still respond there, and I pitch out all three of those reds.
Right? Yeah, you try to filter the hand, and I think he did to a certain degree, but
Um,
it was like a two-turn game. I really wish I would have recorded it, but at that point I was just kind of like brain mush. Um,
feel
and
it.
it was like a two-turn game, and it came down to what was it? Him playing out forked, you know. It was like I'm dead if forked resolves, and it was like me. This was a really interesting thing because it was like absorb an aether, aether spin. No, not aether spindle. Absorb an aether, aether flare, boots to use the aether flare, I think. And the aether flare got buffed, and then aether flare snap back for lethal. It was like some weird lethal like that. It was like,
How
oh,
did
that felt good.
how'd you play absorbing the Aether?
It's a defense reaction.
Yeah, what are you defending?
That's a good question. I forget how I did that. Oh no, wait. Maybe that was the turn where did he play a nourishing emptiness? I can't remember.
Oh, that's hilarious. If you, that's hilarious. So I will say I did used to play absorbing the Aether. I played the reds before they printed Sigil.
Oh no, this was. I'm sorry. This was like I played a blue. What did I play? Oh, duh! It
I,
was blue. Stir the Aether Winds. What was I?
I
I was yeah.
assume Stir.
Yeah, it was blue stir to open up the hand so that I could do that. So yeah, sorry.
No,
It's
you're
been a
good.
night. It's 1 hour and 50 minutes in. Dude, we're gonna
So
hit the
I will
two
say
hour mark.
I hate giving other decks props, especially in Blitz where Kano is king. I don't think we can ever beat a Benji deck.
Especially now, maybe. Who knows?
I also think Benji's probably one of the best decks in the format for Blitz now.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. I
I, I
put a
I made
Benji
up a
list
list.
out.
I made up a list and I've been playing against my locals, and it is wonderful for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I put a list out
Um,
on Channel Fireball today. Actually, they posted the video.
ooh, I need to go watch, see what
You
that
can
is. I want
yeah
to see how
compare
close it
it
is.
compare it to
Do you
yours.
play
I'd be
Salt the Wound?
interested. Yes, I do.
Okay, I got a
Salt the
double
Wound,
Salt the
man.
Wound turn at the end for 12 and 13 each. So good.
How'd you give it go again? Did you use
I
what you
run
call it?
Ride the Tailwind.
Yes, that card is so good.
Card is
Oh,
amazing.
that card is
Um,
linchpin for that deck.
it is.
You run
Yeah,
that and
because
any like combo line that you're not gonna like rushing river. It's like
yeah.
perfect.
So my favorite play in that because I run depending on the matchup I run Needle.
Yeah, I put that in this. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so ride the Tailwind into Needle for 3 into Snatch with Go again.
I'd see. I don't run the snatches, and I thought about it
Why
because,
not?
well, see, I thought about it because you can ride the tailwind them, but I just came off them, and I probably should go back to them because of ride the tailwind. I came off them because there's a lot of other things that need ride the tailwind. I think that maybe that is the swap because
Do
it
you
draws you a
do you,
card, you know.
it does. Do you play any attack reactions?
Only ancestral and red razors. I came off the yellows.
Okay. I
Um,
play yellows too.
I had the yellows in there and I came off them because I just kept finding that I would draw them into like multiples.
Okay,
And
see, if I suppose if that happened to me a lot, I'd probably fall off of them too because it's irritating.
yeah, draw them in multiples, and you're like, well, this is not consistent enough if you hit them in multiples for you to actually use them.
Yeah. I will say the best thing I ever got someone with was my friend blotted Zaxby's. He blocked 5 on my the Benji specialization.
Yeah, spring tidings.
Spring Tide. So it's coming in with 2 with 4 hits on. I had 1 resource loading and 2 cards in hand with no tunic mana. So like he can't double razor me. I'm fine. And I ancestral empowerment drew a card red razor and I hit for 6. I was like I
Yep.
got over for 1.
Yep. And then you draw all your cards, and you're like, I win the game. By the way, did you know I won the
Well, yeah.
game?
So it hit and I broke my boots and I broke my helmet to go
Yep.
get the other one.
You go fetch the other one, and that's just GG
So
lights out.
I drew 4 cards and had that as my last one, with all my cards having go again. Because I don't play almost any starting combo line in mine. I play all the middles and the ends.
Yeah. Do you play like a bunch of crane dances? I only splash crane dance line for
Um,
2 yellows and the one fine center.
I think I have two. I think I have 2 yellows and 2 blues.
I've
Let's
thought about
check because I have
including
my
more
Fab
of it.
DVD up.
I also thought
See,
about including more like of actual just soul bead strikes, like blue soul beads to smooth the line out. But I run the break tide line, like the full break tide line, yellows and blues of Rushing River
yeah.
into no, not torrent, flood of force and break tide. I don't like flood of force, man. Even now,
Uh, I don't like it, but I have to play it because I want a higher chance of break tide because
yep,
break tide is just good.
exactly. 5 dominate. You want to be able to trigger it, and so you pop the boots to give it all go again.
I'm only running blue Rushing River.
Oh, okay. So you got the yellows. I don't know, man. The yellows feel good too, though.
My problem with it is if I have the combo line, it doesn't get under because then it comes in for +3 or it's +2, right? So then it
What do
hits
you
for
mean?
3.
Oh,
So
the yellow. Yeah, the yellow.
if I torrent into rushing, which do I even run torrent? I don't think I even run torrent.
No, I wouldn't run torrent because doesn't come. The blue's 3. Blue comes in for 3.
Yeah, blue comes in for 2.
Torrents of tempo.
I'm reading. Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It's 1, and then it gets +1 if you've done the other.
Torrents of tempo comes in for 2.
No, I'm dumb. I thought you were saying Rushing River comes in for 2.
No,
Dirt.
Rushing River comes in. Yeah, the blue comes in
Yeah,
for 1. Rushing River blue comes in
yeah.
for 1.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
yellow
don't
comes
run
in for 2.
torrent. Why don't I run Yellow Rushing River? I think I just had to cut something, and that's
No,
what ended up being it.
you are right because if like this is your attack that hits first, you can't go yellow Rushing River because it will go to 3. That's yeah. Fundamentally, you are correct there, and that is just a fact of life. But I do run it anyway because it smooths out your break tides, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I probably should be running it.
The thing
Yeah, I
about
play a
Blitz
lot of
though is
mid.
like, what do you cut to put that in? Like you
Yeah, it
cut
makes it
that. What do you
hard.
you know?
I do run a lot of middle combo lines and the final combo lines because I run the other boots. What are they called?
Breeze
The ones
Rider.
that you break. Yeah, Breeze
Yeah,
Riders.
I
I
run
run with
Breeze
Breeze
Rider as
Riders.
well. Yeah,
Because
I don't think you
that
do
super wide
scalers.
turn.
Yeah,
No, they're not good enough in the deck.
no, I agree.
How many blues are you running roughly? If you don't know the exact number.
I don't actually know. It's a decent number just because he likes blues. But
Yeah,
I don't even care because everything costs 0.
yeah. I'm running 18 blues, 18 yellows, and 4 reds. And we know what
Yeah,
the
I don't
four
think I'm
reds are.
running that. I'm running 2 razors, 2 ancestrals, and I do have the red. What is it? Even bigger than that's because it
Oh yeah,
opts
so
you
I don't play
3.
those.
It digs you for the combo, so you can line up double spring tidings a little easier.
That's true. I didn't even think of that card.
Because if you pitch like, and this is the downside to it, it basically wants you to either attack with a blue and then play it, or pitch to Kadachi. But if you pitch to Kadachi, then Salt the Wound gets better because they don't block
True.
the Kadachis, right? And
They
so
don't block the well, they
technically,
don't
like
block anything.
right, a blue card becomes 2 Kadachis. So a blue like that attacks for 1 technically attacks for 2 if you're talking Kadachis, but it doesn't draw you the Spring Tidings card. Nevertheless, you go like Kadachi, even bigger than that at instant afterwards, opt 3, find what you need, banish or put it into your hand, and then continue on. It's a really great way to find ride the tailwinds.
That's true. I probably should be running that. I never even considered the card because I was so focused on the attacks,
Yeah.
and that might be what the yellow reflex comes out if it ends up coming out.
That's actually what I did. That's
Because
exactly what I did.
overall, our list sounds really similar so far. It's just I run yellow razors and you run even bigger than that.
Red even bigger than that. It might even become yellow even bigger than that because you can pitch it for 2 Kadachis, but honestly, you're just always playing it. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you run the 2 blues for Crane Dance. Is that right? 2 blues? I don't run the
Ye-
blue Crane Dances,
I do run blue Karen Dance, yeah,
but I run 2 yellow Rushing Rivers. So it's basically the same thing.
which I don't run. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very close.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a fun deck, man.
so you didn't like Winds of Eternity either?
No, I have Winds of Eternity in.
You do.
It's
I don't.
anti-synergistic, but you know what? You don't actually have to play it in combo succession, and it's still a two that's blue that
Yeah.
blocks three.
I get scared that I'm gonna draw them off of my the specialization. I forget its name. Spring
Spring
tidings.
tidings, yeah.
Like drawing four of those off my spring tidings would feel really awkward. Because
Well,
then the
it
one
shouldn't
that I
matter
searched
because
up doesn't.
well, spring tidings, and then you just follow it up because it won't trigger.
What do you just follow it up with another spring tidings?
Well, no, because like read the text on it, right? It says if 100 wins was the last thing in the combat chain.
Yeah, I meant to say, are you running 100 wins? Not are you running Winds of Eternity?
Yes, I'm running all 100 wins. In fact, I'm running the
So,
reds.
so my problem with it is like if I hit with my last attack as a spring tidings,
Yes, spring
I'm
tidings.
gonna draw four cards. I'm gonna
Yes, draw
break
four.
helmet to search for the other spring tidings.
Yes.
So if I draw 400 wins, none of them will trigger the second spring tidings
Yeah, if
because
you
they're
play
all
Winds of
buffing each
Eternity.
other. Yeah,
No,
or
because
yeah.
spring tidings looks for base.
No,
Yeah, it looks for base, which is why it counts break tide even if you've gotten break tide triggered. Look at spring tidings; it literally says base attack.
am I that bad?
No, you're not bad.
Yeah, I am that bad. Okay.
Yeah, no, I run
Reach
all
base.
100
Wow.
wins. I even run the red 100 wins, even though it buffs, because there are some turns where you're just like, cool, you know what? I'm going to let them choose if they want to interact with this card so that I
How did
can
I
make my
miss
blue
that?
too.
Because that's why I didn't run them was because I was like, oh, they don't trigger. I guess I just misread that card.
But honestly, with 100 wins, it's actually fantastic to go like red for three, blue for two, blue for two, yellow for whatever, you know. But you're never drawing that, like natural
Yeah.
drawing that. So oftentimes it's just like yellow for two, blue for two. And they still come
Yeah.
under, you know.
Well, look, that blue will actually come in at three if the yellow hits.
This is true. It will, which is
Well,
why
no,
you
it won't because
go
you're gonna Kodachi first.
right.
If you're
Which is
gonna,
why you do that, and then it breaks the combo line. But you can do something like, and this is what I've done before, where you go like yellow, Kodachi, yellow, blue, or yeah, yellow blue, because the yellow buffs the blue, and you've already had the
yeah.
hit effect. So the Kodachi becomes a another version, and it makes
Do
salt
you
the wound better.
do you run the other helmet in your list or you just run that one?
Just the mask.
That's what I run. I do have like null rune in sideboard.
Yeah, but you just win,
But
man.
like I don't know. I don't know if you can out aggro a Kano deck. I guess you
If
probably
you
can because I just don't have the equipment to block you.
yeah,
So
if
like if
you
your opening hand is good enough, you can just kill me.
right, if you turn one or turn two find spring tidings, then
I mean,
you
you don't
can
even
go
have to
right
find
enough.
it. Like if your opening hand has three, two or less attacks and an attack reaction, I lose the game. Because you go attack, attack, attack on the last attack, break, break,
Yeah,
and then you go get the other one, play it, and have the defense reaction in hand, or the attack reaction in hand, and I
yeah,
can't full block it.
yep.
And I
And
lose that.
then go and dig for the second one off the top
And
if you can luck into it.
yeah.
Even if you can't, you just deal a bunch of damage.
Yeah, even if you can't, you're just coming in for a lot, and like I have to hope I kill you in response because I can't hold. And you don't even have to find the other 100 win or the other spring tidings. You can just end with a fucking, excuse my language, sorry. You can just end with a
End
giant
with
salt the
end
wound.
with salt the wound. Salt the wound, so good. All right, I have to press this button and I have to go to sleep. I stayed up super late last night, so I have to hit the old dusty trail. But you know what? I'm gonna
You take it
upload
easy.
this in entirety because this
Oh
was a
God.
fantastic conversation. And I will edit a nice YouTube one, but anyone on Patreon that wants to listen to us ramble for 2 hours about Kano can very gladly do so.
All right, thanks for having me, man. It was great talking with you.
It was
I have
indeed.
two more next weekend, so I'll let you know how they go.
Oh, dude, yeah, reach out and let me know how it all falls. I would love to know.